Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with another Snowflake Watches looking at the final debate between Kier Starmer and Rishi Sunak via the BBC. The date and time of this recording is the 27th of June 2024 at 10 AM UK time. So this debate obviously occurred, for the reference of people knowing, this occurred the night before. I had watched the debate last night. After our usual live stream before watching it, and to be honest, guys, I'm not looking forward to this based on what I've seen. However, obviously, I do want to cover it. I do want to break it down for you guys, and hopefully, we will not have any YouTube issues like we did with the last debate. That was very, very frustrating indeed. We are dual streaming both live on twitch.tv and /YouTube as well. I don't expect much of a live audience here tonight, but if we do, that'll be great. Obviously, one person there saying they'll be at work, so they won't be here in person. That's totally fine. So some people will be watching a bit later on. Will I timestamp this? I may timestamp this, I may not. It depends. But I do have one or two funny videos to help break things up as well for you guys. Just before we start, just want to show you guys the gang is here with me. Ollie, Pingu, and Cash Dummy are designated watchers. Are here to watch along with us, to observe, and they will give their detailed analysis and thoughts about this debate as well. So without any further ado, I suppose let's just dive straight into this, guys. So let's just make sure I've got this all right. Hold on one second, let me make sure. Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's have a listen then.
Good evening. Welcome to Nottingham and to Nottingham Trent University, our venue for this debate. With the general election just over a week away, tonight, Rishi Sunak and Kier Starmer are about to spend the next hour and a quarter answering voters' questions. They are the two contenders.
First question, why is Victoria Derbyshire not hosting this? Why is she hosting this? Like, that's my first thought. Like, already, like... And I think I'm hearing some noise in the background as well, from shouting from them and whatnot. Why is this not Victoria Derbyshire? She would be so much better at handling this, in my opinion. But let's just give her the benefit of the doubt, I say.
For Prime Minister, their positions on this debate stage have been decided by the toss of a coin. They do not know what the questions will be. Those will be coming primarily from our live audience here at the university.
Could they switching the camera there? She's talking to a camera that's not even live and that's looking away from her. That's pretty embarrassing. It's not very good. Not very good for the BBC, by the way.
Have been chosen by the pollsters Savanta. They include supporters of the Conservatives and of Labour, as well as some undecided voters. And we will also have questions submitted through the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote website. After 75 minutes of debate, we will have analysis from our spin room, which is also here on the Nottingham Trent campus, and that is where Laura Kuenssberg and Clive Myrie will be talking to other politicians.
Yeah, we don't need to hear from Laura Kuenssberg. We know she's a Tory enabler, so nobody wants to hear from her.
And also to fellow journalists. And so, to the leaders, Rishi Sunak and Kier Starmer, welcome to you both. It's very good that you're taking part in this with just over a week to polling day. Welcome. Let us begin straight away with our first question, and it is from Sue Barkley.
That noise in the background is so bloody annoying. Seriously, so bloody annoying.
People are dismayed by the lack of integrity and honesty in politics today. After the recent allegations about political betting, how would you restore trust in politics?
There's already enough problems as it is, yeah, with regards to trust in politics. But given now that we have another scandal that's taken place, and I think what's even more damning is, and I've talked about this in a separate video, a separate live stream, is the fact that there's a Labour candidate that was involved and they have been suspended, and the Conservatives that have been involved have been suspended as well. But the fact that Labour are in this as well shows that even if, no matter what Kier Starmer is saying right now, many people just simply do not trust him, because it just shows that they're just two cheeks of the same backside, really. And that this whole betting scandal reinforces that point by the fact that if he hadn't if he hadn't been in this, if Labour had not been involved in any of this at all, it would have been a much different story. But I just kind of wish, I just wish that Labour had not been, and it would have made them look a lot better in this debate. But unfortunately, they get to be painted as bad as the Conservatives on this one.
Thank you very much, Sue, for kicking us off. Now, both of your parties have faced allegations in this regard. In recent days, we know of 5 Conservatives being investigated and 1 Labour. Rishi Sunak.
Well, Sue, I completely share your anger. I was as frustrated as you are furious when I learnt about these allegations.
So furious that you don't show it on your face whatsoever.
That's why, alongside the Gambling Commission, we initiated our own internal inquiries into what had happened, and as a result...
What do you mean internal inquiry? What happened is that he already admitted that the Conservatives, they've already admitted, 1 or 2 of them have already admitted that they placed the bets. There's no inquiry about it. It's just a case of you drop the candidate and accept responsibility and ownership for it. It's not really that hard to it. Good morning, Alistair Kier.
Result of that have suspended 2 candidates, and I've been crystal clear. Anyone who has broken the law, broken the rules, should not only face the full consequences of the law, I will ensure that they're booted out of the Conservative Party.
Keir Starmer.
Sue, thank you very much for your question, which I think is on a lot of people's minds, this question of respect and integrity in politics. And you have to lead from the front on issues like this. I think over the last 14 years, politics has become too much about self-entitlement and MPs thinking about what they can get for themselves.
I've got to say this again. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that the BBC have not dealt with these protesters out the back. And they will say something about this, and it does quieten down the protesting later on. But and don't get me wrong, free speech and all that kind of stuff, I'm all for that. But we're talking about a political debate here that's going to decide one of these 2 are going to be the leader of this country, whether we like it or not. It's so embarrassing that it took nearly halfway in this debate before the noise finally subdued. It's ridiculous that the BBC allowed this on something as really important. I know some people don't take these debates seriously, but it's really important for some people, especially undecided voters.
And one of the important choices, and the thing that I would like to do if I'm elected Prime Minister, is to reset politics so that politics returns to public service. In relation to these gambling allegations, the instinct of these people to think the first thing they should do is try to make money was the wrong instinct, and we have to change that. But it is also a question of leadership, because this isn't just what's happened this week, last week in the Gambling Commission. We saw Partygate earlier in this Parliament. The Prime Minister himself was convicted and fined for breaking the rules which he brought in and imposed on everybody else. And of course,
that's a very good line. Very good. I like this. Smear Rishi Sunak. Remind the public of Partygate. Reminding that of what this party and its atrocities. Very, very good stuff. Well, Andrew Payton, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
We've seen what happened with the COVID contracts and the huge amounts of money that were made. This takes leadership. What I did when one of my team was alleged to have been involved and investigated by the Gambling Commission, they were suspended within minutes because I knew it made it really important to be swift. The Prime Minister delayed and delayed and delayed until eventually he was bullied into taking
Rishi
action.
Sunak,
if you're going to change the culture,
let me get a response. Let me get a response, Keir Starmer, to those accusations.
Well, it was
Rishi
important
Sunak.
to me that, given the seriousness and the sensitivity of the matters at hand, that they were dealt with properly, and that's what I've done. We had an independent...
Yeah, but what took you so long, to suspend them? What took you so long to suspend them? It took you forever to do that. Can't really get around that.
An internal inquiry into what happened, have taken action and suspended the candidates involved, and I've been crystal clear that they should face the full consequences of the law. But Keir Starmer talks about leadership in politics. That's what Sue's question was at. It was a broad question about how to do that. I also think leadership means being straight with people. It means having the courage of your convictions, not changing your mind on every single position that you've taken, and being upfront about what you want to do for the country.
Didn't you change your mind on Rwanda? Didn't you used to hate the policy and now all of a sudden you like the policy? Isn't that you changing your mind? Just putting that out there.
That's not what Keir Starmer is doing. He's not being honest with everyone about his plans to raise their taxes.
Right,
I think that will erode trust in politics, and that's the choice
Let's just stick
at
to
this
the heart
election.
of the question, first of all, because it was sparked by the recent allegations about political betting, and Sue asked how you would restore trust in politics. So if you've acted now on those to withdraw support from those two Conservative candidates, what did you find in that investigation?
Well, Michelle, you know there's an independent investigation which is ongoing, which is...
I just feel like what is this question? What is this line of question here? I'm not quite sure what the host is trying to get here.
Is why I can't say anything further about that. You will understand
Yeah,
that.
but
when we had our internal
ago.
inquiries, when we found things that were not appropriate, I took action and suspended the candidates. I've been crystal clear.
You haven't been crystal clear. You've been dithering the lane, which is something that you always do.
I was furious to hear about these things. That's why I've dealt with it. But the choice of this election is about, as Sue said, it's about leadership, it's about integrity in politics, and that's a question about doing what you say. You know, the Keir Starmer's made this broader point, but the point is he's changed his mind on every major position that he's taken.
Absolutely.
He doesn't have the courage of his convictions and is not being straight with everybody now about his plans if he wins power to raise people's taxes. That's not going to do anything to restore trust in politics, and that's a choice for everyone at this election. Continue tax cuts with the Conservatives, or Keir Starmer's tax rises, which he is not being straight with everyone about.
Again,
Let's be very clear here. Yeah, we have the highest taxes have the highest taxes ever under your government, under 14 years of Conservative rule here. And you talk about tax cuts. You keep talking about tax cuts, and yet people find themselves much further off. I would rather have taxes I would rather have taxes rise in order to fund some of the public services and some of the issues that we have in this country. You guys have been raising taxes, and where's all that money gone? It's not gone anywhere near the services that we need. Everything's broken in this country, and you talk as if you're the man who's going to lead this country. You've had time to show what you could do, Rishi. You've had time to show us what you can do, and you haven't shown that.
To return to the question, Keir Starmer, the Labour candidate from whom you've withdrawn support, appears to have betted on losing his own election. Do you know if any other candidate has placed similar bets in this campaign?
Well,
The obvious answer to say to that is, well, no, and if there was, they would have been suspended immediately, because that's exactly what happened when the Labour candidate, when it came up that a Labour candidate was responsible. They were immediately suspended, and that was it. No ifs, no buts, no investigation. They were suspended straight on the spot. So, you know, you can't really dither around that.
He was, as you say, investigated by the Gambling Commission because he bet on himself to lose. As soon as the Commission said they were investigating, I suspended him. And I've made very clear to my candidates that I expect high standards in politics. I said last week that the Prime Minister should have taken decisive action. And I said last week, should one of my candidates be investigated by the Commission, then they would be suspended and their feet wouldn't leave the floor. And that's what I did. And so my candidates know I expect the highest standards and that I'll take decisive action if they fall below those standards. Because I am, back to Sue's point, I'm absolutely determined to return politics to public service.
Do you know that none of your other candidates have placed similar bets?
Well, it definitely comes across there. It looks like that Keir Starmer's getting through to her with her views there.
For our country.
Do you know that none of your other candidates have placed similar bets?
Well, I've made clear to my candidates what the standards are, and they've...
Again, why is she asking this question? The answer is obvious. Like, I don't. It's not rocket science. Like, it's really not rocket science to figure out that. Do you think I'm gonna play? Do you think so? Do you think I'm honestly going to have gonna keep candidates on with that?
By my actions, what the consequences are if they fall short of those standards. But the Prime Minister hides behind a process. He could have taken decisive action last week, even the week before, but he eventually got round to it when he was bullied by other people into doing it. That's not leadership, and he talks about integrity. I'm sorry, when you get convicted for breaking the COVID rules, which you imposed on the rest of the country, you really shouldn't be talking about integrity in politics.
Rishi Sunak?
Well, leadership means being straight with people about what you plan to do. I've set out my plans clearly, and I appreciate...
You set out your plans clearly, yet we still don't know what your plan is. What is this plan, Rishi Sunak? Please lay out the plan for us, because I went through your manifesto and I still don't know exactly what the plan is.
Actually, that not everyone's going to agree with me on everything, but at least you know where I stand. Now, Keir Starmer is not being straight with you about his plans to raise your taxes. I don't think that's leadership. I don't think that people should surrender their family finances to the Labour Party, and that's the choice for people at this election.
Well, let me just address that, if I may, because we have set out in our manifesto all of our plans. They're fully funded, they're fully costed, and we've set out that we will not be increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT. What the Prime Minister...
Yeah, but the problem that people will say, and Sunak will bring this up, is that you've not ruled out other tax rises. But the thing is that they can't afford to not rule out other tax rises because they need to, because our public finances are in an absolute bloody state.
Is doing. He's got a manifesto that's got promises to you and everybody watching which are unfunded because his Chancellor has said that the money he's relying on has already been spent. Now, that is the mistake that Liz Truss made. That's what cost so many people so much across this country, and now we've got to repeat unfunded commitments, lots of promises, but where's the money coming from? The Chancellor himself has said the money was spent last year, it isn't available. And if there's 5 more years of this, we're going to have the same as we've got now, a cost of living crisis bearing down on people across this country, really struggling because the economy is broken. And this is the chance at this election to turn the page and start to rebuild our country with a stable economy.
Okay.
Well, Michelle, just to build on that, what the Chancellor did this morning was ask his opposite number, Keir Starmer's Shadow Chancellor, to rule out raising all your taxes beyond what they've already announced in the first budget. And the Shadow Chancellor wasn't able to do that today.
Of course she can't do that. Of course she can't rule that out. You keep saying your party's going to cut taxes. You guys raise taxes. The lies are so blatant. It's so blatant.
That's what the Chancellor did today. But you don't have to listen to me. Just go online, go to the Telegraph website, because we've just found...
No, we don't want. I don't think we want to take it from the Telegraph.
...a recording that they have put out there from the Deputy Chancellor from the Labour Party admitting that their plans will cost hundreds of billions of pounds.
I'm just going to explain something to anyone who hasn't seen this today.
That is going to cost all of you thousands of pounds of tax rises. That's why I say Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are not being straight with you. So do not surrender to their tax rises.
Let me just explain. This is a reference to Darren Jones, the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, one of your senior Treasury team, who in a recording given to the Daily Telegraph has said decarbonising the British economy will cost hundreds of billions of pounds.
We've set out in our manifesto what we want to do to go to renewable energy, and we've set out how much that will cost, exactly how much is going to be put in. And
yes, you did, but you've also rolled back on that as well. The £28 billion. You've rolled back on that to £22 billion, and your argument for that is obviously because of Liz Truss crashing the economy. I think that's important to highlight as well.
We've got a column saying how that's going to be funded. Yes, it is absolutely right that we want to get in investors to come alongside that government money. And we've been talking, you won't be surprised by this, to global investors for the best part of 2 years to say that if we put down this money set out in our manifesto, will you come alongside it and put down many more billions of pounds so that in partnership with the government we can make the change that we need?
Hang on.
No, let me just finish this.
I'm sure we're going to come back to the same thing later on.
This is your own Shadow Chancellor.
If you don't mind, I'm going to get to the next question. Because there
just be straight with
there are people waiting.
He's not.
How many hundreds is it? Is it 200?
I'm going to turn to the next question now.
Is it 400?
He can't be straight with the numbers because he's not the one who can see the books. You're the Prime Minister. You're the government. You're the ones who can see the books. Of course, they can't be 100% straight on the books because you're the party. You're the goddamn party that's been in power for 14 bloody years.
I think the Prime Minister must have put a bet on how many times he's going to interrupt me.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to turn to the next question because lots of people are waiting and they've got important questions that they would like answers to. If you can hear any noises off, ladies and gentlemen, or anyone at home, there is a protest taking place outside, which is also an aspect of our democracy and people exercising their freedom of speech. Our next question...
Yes, but... Listen, BBC, host. Like, I get that. I understand that. Like, and we're all for free speech here. We really are for protesting and whatnot. But what exactly is coming to this political debate, screaming and shouting outside here, going to do anything? It's not going to change the leaders' opinions. It's not going to change the people in here's opinions. All you're doing is pissing everyone off. That's what you're doing. You're upsetting me, and you're upsetting people who are watching this. And you also turn people off from watching it as well. Like, and we can't hear what they're saying as well. We can't even hear what they're saying. So I mean, it's ridiculous. This protest in that noise in the background is completely and totally ridiculous. It should not have been allowed in this debate. Like, I get right for free speech, right for protest and everything, but people want to hear what the audience members' questions are, and they want to hear what the two leaders are as well.
Here comes from Mary Armstrong.
Evening. I've worked 2 jobs since I was 18, and I'm now 60.
Wow.
And I think too many people don't understand how important and better it is for you to be working hard. I also think too many people are on out-of-work benefits. My question is, what are you going to do to help more people to come off benefits and back into work?
Well, if she had a brain, which she clearly doesn't, she would know that there's a broken healthcare system which is forcing a lot of people onto benefits because they're not able to get the appointments and the treatments that they need. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we have to remember here is that the benefit system has already been cut to the effing bone. You have already made it extremely difficult for people to get onto PIP, to get universal credit as it is. It's already difficult enough as it is. And this whole scheme of getting people back to work will only work if people are given good jobs with decent money, conditions that they are able to work in. And there should be no indication of any kind of forced labour here, and which is something that the Prime Minister wants to push. This narrative that people have this mindset that people just sit on benefits is there is some people on that, but it is a very small minority. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are claiming benefits, who are claiming them because they don't have any other choice, that they need to, because of the situations that they are in. And many of these situations are no faults of their own. Lots of businesses that have struggled, that have gone out of business now because of Brexit or other cost of living factors, because their energy bills are too high, or the trading, being able to trade with our European partners. You know, lots of businesses have run up shop and gone, and now those employers are now finding themselves on the dole, unable to get into work. And this whole getting people off work and into jobs and all that, like, they're just not looking at the bigger picture here and seeing what's going on. The numbers are out there that says that there are far too many people who are just sick and unwell and unable to get back into work. And unless you deal with the healthcare crisis, then you're not going to get more people off the dole and back into work. It's just not going to happen.
Mary, thank you very much for that. Keir Starmer, what are you going to do to get more
Mary,
people off work, off benefits and into work?
Yeah, can I first agree with you that...
Could Keir... I kind of wish she didn't cut off the host while she was talking, but...
work is, of course, about pay and being able to pay your own way and, you know, support your family. But it is also about dignity and respect. And my dad worked in a factory all his life. He was a tool maker. And having a secure job for him was really important to his respect and integrity. In relation to...
What's that? Sounds like a bonfire taking place outside. I mean, like, it's just absolutely... It's so noisy out back. It's just... where they are. It really is.
Those that are out of work, my rule is this: if you can work, you should work, and we've got a plan to get people into work, working with businesses to support people in. I think we need to change the job centre and the careers service, because at the moment, when I ask businesses, if you have a vacancy, are you going to the job centre to get that vacancy filled? They say they're not, so we need to do that. The other thing, Mary, that we absolutely need to do is to get the waiting lists down in the NHS, because very many people aren't able to work or to work in the way they want because they're waiting for an operation because of the catastrophic level of waiting lists under this government.
So let's hear your first response, Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, well-deserved applause, pointing out the fact that the healthcare is in crisis, which is what's leading people to be on the benefits.
To Mary's question, what are you going to do to get people off benefits?
Mary, there's a clear choice for you and everyone who believes, like you do, the situation isn't right. Because if you want lower taxes and lower welfare, that's what I'll deliver. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's what Keir Starmer will do. So I strongly agree that people are better off in work. It's not just for the financial security it brings you, it's about the purpose, the dignity that it brings to people, which you alluded to, and I strongly agree with. The number of people currently out of work on ill health and disability benefits is too high. It's gone up by 800,000 since the pandemic. It's gone up by 60%, the bill, in the last few years.
I wonder who's been the Prime Minister. I wonder what political party that has been running all of this. I wonder whose fault that is. You know, because it's not Labour. I wonder who's responsible for this.
We've got to do something about that. I made a speech about this a few months ago. I set out a comprehensive plan to reform the welfare system, to tighten it up so that those who can work do work. We're stricter about those eligibility criteria. That's fair for all of you who are working hard paying your taxes. It's better for those people, and that's what I'll do. But when I announced that, and just again recently, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party opposed every single thing.
This is what they always do. This is what he always does. Just say Keir Starmer and Labour are going to do this, while not being very clear about what he's going to do and what his party are going to do to deal with this situation.
I set out to deliver what you want. Every single thing. They do not think.
You said you're going to set out a plan and everything. You haven't actually told the audience here what you're actually doing.
That you can save a single penny in the growing welfare bill. That's what their numbers show. That's what they've said. So the choice for you is clear. If you want lower welfare and lower taxes, I will deliver that for you. Higher taxes and higher welfare is what you will get with Keir Starmer.
We actually have a related question, so I'm going to bring in Beverly McKenzie now.
Right. I've worked all my life, but had to stop due to illness. Disabled people like me get hit in the worst way when we want to get back to work and help, but often we can't. How will candidates ensure we're not punished by benefit sanctions?
Thank you very much. Rishi Sunak, so you've said you'd tighten the system, you'd be stricter. What does that mean for people like Beverly?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest problems is that they want to make it more difficult for people to claim benefits, the Conservatives, and obviously they want to make it harder even for disabled people. And one of the biggest problems, and I've regurgitated this many times. Good morning, Stephen Banker. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well, and everybody else who's joined. I really appreciate everybody coming along. But one of the biggest gripes that I have with this whole benefit system is that there are no medical experts that are confirming the disabilities that she has and that other people have in touch with the job centre on why they need that universal credit or the benefits that they claim. This is one of the biggest fundamental problems, and I don't understand why this was not picked up in either manifesto or either of their parties' manifestos on this. How on God's green earth can someone make a decision about whether someone is fit or not fit without at least a medical expert making that decision? It could not be more blatant. Like, you have to understand that some people cannot work, or they want to work but they cannot because of a certain disability, and that needs to be made clear. And they should not have their benefits cut off simply because of they were offered a job and they couldn't take it, but the actual reason that they couldn't take it is because of a disability benefit. But the person at the job centre says, even though they have no medical experts, they're saying, oh, no, it's not because, no, they're just going to assume that the person didn't want to work, when in fact the person does want to work, but the job that they're offering isn't suitable, because of their disability. And rather than actually having a middle person, a medical expert saying, no, they actually cannot do this job, A, B, C, this is because of Y, so that it can be explained to the person at the job centre so there is a reason. And then what they can do then is the medical expert can say, well, they could do these and these. You could look in these certain sectors of jobs that they could potentially do with their disability. So you can help find so the medical expert can actually help pinpoint a much better sector where they could be more able to work, because obviously the person there saying that she wanted to work. So the medical expert could help pinpoint a much better department or sector for that person to be able to work, so that that person is able to work and then obviously be taken off the benefit system, even though that person still has disabilities, but a work that they could be satisfied of doing, but not being pushed, but obviously not being forced into it too. There. Good to see you, Paninator. I'm physically disabled and work 30 hours a week. I had an interesting convo with a previous Tory who thought her party helped me. I made it clear they only made it harder for me in work. This is the point for, yeah, exactly. You have to have the medical expert is so important when it comes to people with disabilities, especially people like yourself, Paninator. It is so important that you have that have expert to be in that conversation, not just between you and the job centre. It's really important.
Yeah, sorry, what was I couldn't quite hear. Is it Beverly?
Yeah. Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly, look, I actually believe in a compassionate welfare system that supports everyone who genuinely needs it. And you saw me do that during COVID, making sure we got support to the most vulnerable. Right? That will always happen under a Conservative government.
Also, yeah, you guys were partying while people were dying as well. Let's not forget that.
Has happened under me. But what we won't do is have a system where people are not supported into work if they can work. So what we're going to do is make sure that we reform the fit note, sick note process, which isn't working. It's signing far too many people off as not fit for work. We're going to look at...
Well, those doctors and experts who are signing those fit notes, yeah, they are experts. They know, they can assess and determine whether somebody is fit and able to work. You take that away, you could potentially kill people by doing this. Taking that away is extremely dangerous and extremely stupid as well. That is so dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. It is something that again, a doctor, a GP or a medical expert saying, after assessing that person, and says, okay, this person is definitely not fit or able to work. I've got to give this person a sick note. They will make that determination. But and they want to cut that person out. That is absolutely disgusting. Wolfpack, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
You asked about benefits and sanctions. We're going to provide active support for people into work. But I also think that if people have been offered jobs that they can do and that they don't take them, then that's not okay. So
you're right, it's not okay. But what is not okay is that a medical expert who is not not in the room to be able to actually tell the person at the job centres that, hey, this person can't actually do the job. You can't do that to them. Like, this person cannot physically do this job, or they mentally cannot do it because of A, B, and C. You don't have that medical expert in the room. That's the problem here.
So after 12 months, what I've said is we will do something about that. If your job coach says to you, look, there's work that you can do, that everyone agrees you can do, there's a job for you that you're fit enough and well enough to do, and you refuse to take it, I don't think that's fair on everyone else after 12 months of support. So we will tighten that up. I think that's fair for everybody, because fundamentally I think that those people who...
It's inhumane to cut off the supply of income for people. It is inhumane to cut them off like that. There is nothing... It is incredibly cruel to cut off the payments for people in any way, shape or form. Of course you want to get more people back into work, but cutting off their pay does not help anyone. All you're doing is sending them down a dangerous and dark spiral.
Can work, should work. That's, I think, a fundamental tenet of fairness in our system, which most people will agree with. That's why I think we can save money in the welfare bill, because it's forecast to grow at an extraordinary rate over the next few years.
Starmer,
and I want to use that money to support people
Starmer, just
and
one
to
second.
cut your taxes.
What is wrong, if you believe it is wrong, what Rishi Sunak is saying, that if someone is offered a job and they can do that job and they turn it down, that's wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong with that, and I just want to address Beverly's point.
You opposed it when I announced it.
You literally
opposed it.
If you listen to people in the audience across the country more often, you might not be quite so out of touch. Beverly...
Absolute. He tried to rattle Kier, and Kier's there absolutely like it's literally like it was a boxing match there, and Kier Starmer just hit him with an uppercut there. That's a real hitter there, and that disconnect, because people feel that disconnect between Sunak and the public. He is very disconnected. Great line, absolute real hit gutter there to Sunak.
Beverly, can I just address the point you make, because it's a really important point, which is very many people with illness or disability do want to get back into work for the very reason that was alluded to before, the respect, the dignity, and the support that it gives them. But it's difficult to do so because they're worried about whether they can do it and whether they'll last a period of months. So what a number of firms are doing, businesses, and I've been to see this myself, and I support this, is having a supported scheme where people can be supported back into work for a number of months to make sure they can make that transition and get back into work. I think that's a really good scheme. That's what we would put into place. But I do have to address this question.
And that's the right way to deal with this. Transitioning, not just throwing them straight off the bat and straight out there. Transitioning, making sure that they are able to get that the job that they're working in is going well, they're happy with it, and then eventually they can just say, okay, you're good, we'll let you go, sort of thing. And working in cooperation with whatever the job that they're working in, like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. This is the right way to do it. Transitioning, no pushing them straight into the water and expecting them a slow transition. This is 100% the right way to do this.
The Prime Minister keeps saying he's going to cut taxes. He has raised tax 26 times. Nobody's raised more tax than this Prime Minister.
You're right, it's not the question, but you haven't given him a chance to respond to it, to be fair, as well.
Question about tax. This is a question about getting people back to work. So the numbers have risen considerably since the COVID pandemic. The numbers of
very important there, Paninator said. It was one of those schemes which helped me in the past, and it works. Exactly. You can't expect to just, go straight in and expect everything to be hunky-dory. It takes time. Things take time. It's got to be a process. There has to be a process, and these things have to take time. And that's 100% the way it has to be done. I mean, I know every case is different. Every person is different. But no one should be forced off benefits into work, into a job that they're not either they're not comfortable with, not able with, and they nearly need. One of the things is that the humanity is being taken out of the benefit system, because people are consistently shown that that they have this consistent picture that's rammed in their heads that everybody is ripping off the British taxpayer, and that all the faults are benefits and our immigrants and whatnot. That's not the case at all. But the problem is that we have a mainstream media that's ramming it down people's throats. So especially the older generation, which is what most people you can see in this audience, are believing. They are believing this.
People economically inactive due to long-term sickness has risen to 2.8 million. So how would you are seeking power. What would you get those numbers down to through the approach you're talking about?
We want to get the numbers right down. We want to, with a plan to get people back into work.
It's not going to give a number, for God's sake.
Partly that's supported. Partly it's the changes that we want to make to the job centres to make sure that where businesses and public services, the NHS doesn't go to the job centre when it's got vacancies. They should do, so we want to merge those two services. But the other thing, if we're going to get people back into work, is we have to tackle these terrible waiting lists, because nearly 8 million people are on the waiting list.
Yes.
And so it's not their fault that they can't get back into work. It's the fault of the government that's put us in this terrible position. We have to address these
fundamentally.
Basics.
There's a very clear choice.
Another good attack punch there by Keir Starmer. Keep reminding people, hey, they're the ones who've been in power for 18 years, because not everyone knows that. Okay, there is one or two young faces in the audience. I'll take that back. But this is really important to keep reminding people that, hey, they're the ones that have been in power for 18 years. They're the ones that have been making the decisions. Their political party. Yes, they've had different prime ministers, different leaders, but they're the ones who you guys have been voting for time and time again.
And there's a very clear dividing line. I think you've got to change the eligibility criteria in the welfare system. You've got to make it clear that people who can work should work. That means looking at all the gateways we have and actually being more rigorous about asking people to provide medical information when they're making these claims.
Yeah, but you won't put medical experts in those discussions. You literally want to take the sick notes away from them. You won't put the medical experts in this. This is just a complete stark contrast to up in Scotland. Complete contrast. You don't want to put the medical experts in there because you know, Prime Minister, if you put medical experts in there, there's not going to be many people coming out because the medical experts will be saying, well, unfortunately, Prime Minister, we can't take this person off the benefit system because they can't physically able to work or because of A, B, and C. But you guys don't want to put the medical expert in there. You want to force people into jobs that they don't want to do against their will. You want to be harsher on people, be more down on people than they need to be.
Forming the sick note process, being stricter about saying to people who don't accept a job after 12 months that that's not okay. Those are all the practical things that I've set out. I think that's fair. Now,
you have no idea what it's like for people living on the dole. You have no idea what it's like for people that have no money. You've had everything handed to you. You are literally a man with a silver spoon in your mouth. You are a freaking millionaire/billionaire. You have no idea what it's like for ordinary people. And people can argue about Keir Starmer, about whether he was working class or man of people, whatnot. But he is far more connected to the people than you ever will be.
Keir Starmer can stand here tonight and say what he wants. When I made that speech, and you can all go and read it and see what they said, they opposed every single measure. Just 2 weeks ago, they were asked about it. They said, we oppose all those measures. So it's one thing to stand here and say all these things. You should at least be upfront with people. You don't think my approach is the right one. You are going to have higher welfare under you, and that's why you can't deliver tax cuts the way that I can. And people should not surrender to this.
Will the welfare bill...
What the hell is wrong with this audience? Why are they clapping? This man, this political party that he's saying, has BS'd you guys for 14 goddamn years. Why are you clapping? What's wrong with you people? Are you stupid or something? How stupid are these people?
The Prime Minister says he's going to do all these things. They've been in power for 14 years. Why has he only just thought of this with a week to go before the general election? Honestly, if there's that much wrong with the system, who's the guy in charge of the system over the last 14 years? Why is it so bad?
Exactly. Why? What they should be? This is what he's just pointed out there. It's common sense. The audience should be clapping on that. And yet they're silent here. It's crazy.
You want to be in charge, but you've got nothing to say to people about what you would do about it. This election is about the future.
Why are they clapping? How thick are these people? I'm sorry. Like, why are you clapping? Why are you agreeing with Sunak? Are you guys that gullible? Are they even listening to this debate?
Bill be higher under you, Keir Starmer?
No, it needs to come down. It needs to come down by getting people back into work with a clear plan, and it needs to come down by...
And this is the thing. People who keep... Like, here's the thing. Like, I get... Like, and myself and many people here in the chat right now, we don't trust Labour. We don't. But I tell you what, we don't trust Labour, and we have our questions, and rightfully so, about them. But my God, do we really want another 5 years of Conservatives? Of hell no. And yet these people are still, like, clapping and applauding Sunak. Like, how stupid are these people?
Tackling the waiting lists so that more people can get back into work, which is why one of the first things that we will do if we're elected in to serve our country, serve being the word I choose, is to put in place 40,000 extra appointments, NHS appointments, each and every week. That's 2 million a year to drive down those waiting lists, to give people the comfort and operations that they need, and to allow them to get back into the economy so that we can grow the economy, which is the thing that's been missing so desperately over the last 14 years.
What Keir Starmer's not telling you is actually most of the people who we're talking about, who asked about originally, aren't on an NHS waiting list. So talking about that isn't an answer to this problem.
That's BS, and you know it. Yes, many of them are on an NHS waiting list who are relying on benefits because they can't get back to work because your party ruined the National Healthcare Service. The numbers will go down if you actually cleared the backlog, but you haven't done that.
The answer to this problem is actually being stricter about the eligibility criteria,
No, it's
making
not.
sure that everyone who can work does work, because that's fair to everyone like Sue,
No,
who is
it's
working
not.
very hard and putting in. That's what I will do. I promise you I will deliver on it. We will cut the
And what have you done since you've been Prime Minister? You've done F all since then.
welfare bill, the growth in the welfare bill. It is unsustainable. We spend too much on it. I've set out a plan to do so. Labour oppose all of it. So the choice for you is simple. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's what Keir Starmer will do. If you want lower taxes and lower welfare,
Completely
that's what I will
wrong.
do. Do not surrender
False.
to our welfare system to the Labour Party and Keir Starmer.
I'm going to turn to our next question on that note,
Rubbish.
and this one comes from Steve Curtis.
Good evening, all. We're an island. Why can't we easily close our borders?
Thank you, Steve.
Well, there might be a little thing called Brexit that might have made the immigration worse as well.
For that question, Keir Starmer.
Steve, the biggest threat to our borders at the moment is the very many people arriving by small boat over the Channel. And there are record numbers. Since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, 50,000 people have come across by small boat. And the government has effectively lost control of our borders.
Yes, remember. Yes, yes. He needs to keep hammering home this message that they are the ones who have been in power. They are the ones who've made things worse. They are the ones who have been in charge for 14 years. This is the message that people need to, that Keir Starmer needs to keep hammering the people, and people need to remember this. They are the ones who've been in power for 14 goddamn years.
And that means it's not just a border security issue, it's actually a national security issue because the government's lost control of who's coming and what their background is. Now, I think that nobody but nobody should be making that journey across the Channel. And we have to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade. There are gangs that are making a fortune, putting people into boats across the Channel, an absolute fortune. And I think they can be taken down. And Steve, before I was a politician, I was the chief prosecutor for England and Wales, so I ran all criminal prosecutions in England and Wales, in all of our criminal courts, and we had to deal with terrorist plots and other plots, drug plots and gun plots, which were across various other countries. We grouped together with police and law enforcement across Europe, and we took down those terrorist gangs. I've seen it done. I've been part of the operations to do it. I do not accept, I will never accept, that the only gangs that apparently can't be taken down are the gangs that are putting vulnerable people in boats to go across the Channel.
We haven't heard from him yet on Steve's question, which was, we're an island, why can't we easily close our borders?
Steve, you're right to highlight the issue. It's completely unfair what's happening. When people come here illegally, jump the queue, it not only puts pressure on public services, it not only threatens our security.
There's no legal routes for people to come here. Unless you are from Ukraine, unless you're from Hong Kong, and there's certain provisions in Afghanistan, you can't come here legally. There's no legal routes for people to come here. Even people from Gaza don't have a legal say. There's no legal routes for people to come here. When he talks about jumping the queue. There is no queue because there is no legal route for people to come here and apply properly. There's no legal routes. It's very important to... People don't understand this. It's really not that hard to... But they won't tell the public this. They won't shout about this in the public. It's really not that hard to tell them. But people aren't told this. They are told a certain narrative, and that narrative sticks in their head. They're not told the full picture. They're given parts of a picture of what's happening when it comes to immigration, but they're not given the full picture. And the full picture is that while the immigrants and migrants will always come to the UK, there's no legal way for them to come. So they have to cross by boats, cross under the trucks and whatnot to try and get through the checkpoints because there's no legal way for them to come and claim.
It's an affront to that sense of fairness, which is fundamental to our national character, and that's why I've made it a priority to stop the boats. We have made progress. The numbers have come down over the past 12 months compared to the 12 months before. But
They're
in order
record
to fully
numbers.
solve this problem, you need a deterrent. We need to make it crystal clear to people that if they come to our country illegally, they won't be able to stay. And that's why, if I'm your Prime Minister on July 5th, the flights will go to Rwanda. We will build that deterrent that multiple other European countries now agree is the right way to deal with this problem.
They don't agree with you. That's BS right there. And it's not in accordance with international law, which is also another reason why you've called this election. That's just absolute nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. This will not... We've said this before a million times, guys. The Rwanda scheme is not going to deter people from crossing over. If people want to come to the UK, they will come.
And that's how we solve this problem. If Keir Starmer is your Prime Minister, all those illegal migrants will be out on our streets. And that is the choice for you. Do not surrender our borders to the Labour Party.
You've already surrendered our borders. You've let it run amok.
If this is complete and utter nonsense.
On the numbers,
Why are you clapping? What's wrong with you?
just one moment. Just one moment. I want to clarify something. Small boat arrivals did come down last year, but arrivals so far this year are at a record high. It's more than 13,000 people. Have you lost control, as Keir Starmer has said?
No. The numbers have come down over the past 12 months, as you acknowledge.
Last
Michelle,
year.
but the way to solve this problem is to have a deterrent. And look, I will tell you...
You've been fact-checked right in front of the audience, and you're just refusing to accept ownership responsibility.
The Rwanda plan is a deterrent. You just have to listen to what the illegal migrants themselves are saying. One of them just said...
There is no such thing as illegal migrants.
Most of us are still in France due to the fear we have about Rwanda. Another one said...
This is a pack of lies right here.
I won't cross the channel until the Rwanda plan is destroyed.
This, again, is another pack of... This is lies. This is absolute lies. If this was true, we would have video footage from the Conservatives showing this on Twitter. There will be video footage of them showing immigrants doing this. Or if they were smart, if they were really smart, which they're not, they could have paid some people, some immigrants on Calais to say this for them. They could have paid some immigrants if they were really smart. But we know they're not going to do that. But yeah, he's absolutely lying again here.
If Labour win, the people smugglers are going to need a bigger boat. Don't surrender our borders to the Labour Party.
You would scrap the Rwanda plan.
Record numbers have come under this Prime Minister's watch. Record numbers.
Prime Minister. He is a Prime Minister. He is the Prime Minister. People need to remember that.
Was coming across the channel. And he says it's a deterrent. There are a few hundred that would go on a flight to Rwanda at huge expense to the taxpayer. There are tens of thousands. 50,000 people have come since Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister. 50,000 across the channel. A few hundred going every year means there's a 99% chance you're not going to Rwanda. Now, I've worked with criminal gangs, Rishi Sunak. I know that they are telling the people they're exploiting there's a 99% chance of not going to Rwanda. That is not a disincentive. That is not a deterrent, and it's not working. If it were working, why are record numbers still coming under your watch, Prime Minister? How on earth can you say it's working? You put the scheme in place. The flights could go off. I noticed you called the election, by the way, before any flights could actually get off, and it could be tested. An interesting timing. But if this was such a deterrent, why is it obviously not working?
You spent all this time...
This is such a sucker punch there. I noticed you called the election. All of a sudden, now out of the blue, is it because you couldn't get these flights going? And it's very good, a nice punch there. And again, this audience showing its bias by not applauding Keir Starmer here.
When I first got this job, saying call an election. Then when we call election, you spend all your time saying why did you call an election? This is about the future. I can tell everyone what I'm going to do with illegal migrants who come to our country. They will be on planes.
Yes, you can tell everyone as much as you want about what you're going to do with the future, but your past and your record and your actions speak just as much about you as what you are saying right now. That's the key thing. The key difference is that while Keir Starmer is an unknown to many people, his party has been out of power for 14 years, and there are many questions. Many people are willing to gamble with Labour than put up what they expect from you guys for the last 14 years. That's the key difference there. A lot of people who, without a shadow of a doubt, who have been super Conservative supporters, who don't like or don't trust Keir Starmer, are more likely to gamble with Keir Starmer and Labour simply because, well, they don't know how they're going to do, but they're kind of tired of what's been happening in the last several years, and they want something different. People sometimes just want something different, and that's the grim reality. If I were in charge, I'd stop small boats on day one. How do you ask easy? I bring bigger boats, says Pundinator. Migration is natural to our species as tribalism. We need to be preparing ourselves for more, not trying to isolate ourselves. Exactly. But unfortunately, the mainstream media are the ones who paint the narrative for the world, and that's why we need media reform, guys.
Be sent away because they shouldn't be here. What will you do with the illegal migrants that arrive to the UK? What will you do with them? You've had 3 weeks to think of an answer. What is it?
We've got tens of thousands of people here who've come unlawfully. The Prime Minister says he'll send them all to Rwanda. The Rwanda scheme takes a few hundred. It would take literally 300 years to get all the people who are here unlawfully to Rwanda.
Keir
So they're going to stay here.
If elected, what would you do?
What would you do with them?
So at the moment, they're not being processed. So they're sitting in hotels, which you are all paying for. They're not processed, and as a result of not being processed, that means not a single one, even those that shouldn't be here, can be returned anywhere. So once they've got here under the Prime Minister's scheme, they're here for life. That's an absurd situation to have got into. So yes, we do need to process.
But what will you do with them?
We've got to process the claim.
He's just told you what he was going to do with them. He's going to process them. Excuse me. He said he's going to process them. You haven't processed them. You've let them sit there in there. Keir Starmer's... We talk like all these schemes that you've put up. Hotels, barges, army barracks, all these places you've put them in. You won't process them, Prime Minister. You haven't processed them. That's one thing that Keir Starmer's going to get done. He's going to deal with this backlog by getting more civil servants, by getting more people to clear the cases. He's going to clear the cases, and the numbers are going to be there. I generally believe he's going to do this. And he's going to show it. And you've done bugger all on it.
Sitting there with tens of thousands of people. But just
when
let me finish.
illegal migrants come to our country, what will you do with them?
Processed their
It's a very
claims.
simple question.
Well,
I can tell people what I will do with them. I will put them on planes to Rwanda because they shouldn't be.
He just said what he's going to do. He said he's going to clear the backlogs by getting more people, more civil servants in, getting more people in to clear the backlogs. That's what he's going to do. You're not going to do that. You're not doing that. You haven't been doing that.
300 years.
What will you do with illegal migrants who come to our country? What will you do with them? It's a simple question.
He's already given the answer. And the audience are not paying attention to what Keir Starmer is saying here.
His plan is
what will you do with them?
They need to be processed at the moment.
Processed?
They're not. These
Which
claims
means giving
are not being
which,
processed.
to be clear, will mean most of them will be given asylum. They will
what will you
get
do
the
with
right.
No, now the host is being unfair here. No, that's not how it works. Yeah, they are due to process, and it is decided whether or not they can be claimed asylum or not claimed asylum. There are many cases where people are not given asylum and are sent back to the countries of origin. This is not true. Why is the host here trying to take sides here?
To remain in this country.
At the moment, 100% of them are effectively being granted asylum in this country because they can't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere. They cannot.
A Labour government needs to get rid of the chairman of the BBC and needs to get a neutral in this and start kicking a lot. There needs to be fundamental changes to this BBC because they are far too biased towards the Conservatives.
The Prime Minister knows this, and if he thinks I'm wrong, he should say so. Because they're not being processed, they cannot be returned to where they came from. Can they, Prime Minister? If he wants to correct
Rishi
that,
Sunak?
now's his chance to do it. They
very
cannot
clear
be returned.
about where we'll answer them. Well, do you know where these people come from?
No, he's not answering the question.
Do you know
You
where
can
they
see
come
that.
from?
There you
Iran,
go. Yep.
Syria, Afghanistan. So when Keir Starmer says he's going to return people, is he going to sit down? Are you going to sit down with the Iranian ayatollahs? Are you going to try and do a deal with the Taliban? It's completely nonsensical what you are saying, right? You are taking people for fools, right? I think that these people should not stay in our country. They will be on planes to Rwanda. That's what I will.
Now, I have to stop here, guys. I have to say, Rishi Sunak does have a valid point about Syrians, Afghanistans, and Iranians who are coming from those countries, and saying you can't just put them on, you can't just send them back to those countries of origin because of how dangerous they are. He's absolutely right there. He's absolutely right there. But we have people coming from all sorts of countries as well. So I think that's a really important point. Whether you might that was a good line there from Rishi Sunak, I have to say. So I'm not quite sure how Keir Starmer will respond to that, because I think that's a very valid point there from the Prime Minister.
To get 50,000 people to Rwanda.
You still can't answer the question. What will you do with them?
Send all the tens of
All the
thousands
illegal migrants who arrive
to
will be
Rwanda?
processed and put on planes to Rwanda.
50,000.
Tory One BBC, yeah, I know.
Is that the
That
scheme?
is the choice for you. If you
50,000.
think illegal migrants should not be in our
making it
country, they should be sent somewhere else to build the deterrent, I will deliver for that
He's
for you. Do
literally
not
making it up.
surrender our borders to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. This situation will just get worse. We will become the soft touch of Europe. And as I said the other night, they are queuing up in Calais waiting for a Keir Starmer to be in charge.
Boats.
We have to also remember that while immigration numbers have increased, they're still not as high as other countries in Europe. We're not taking in the highest amount. We were at one point still one of the lowest, but I think the last I checked, we were like mid-table, lower and mid-table in terms of migration we're taking in comparison to other European countries, and I think that's a really important point to make as well.
So you will send tens of thousands of people who are here and out of the asylum system at the moment. You are promising to send them all to Rwanda.
We will have a
in due
number
course.
of flights from July through to build this deterrent. That's what I've always
Tens
said.
of thousands.
The principle here is I don't think
He will not be able to do this. He will not be able to do this. This is a fake promise. He cannot deliver this. He cannot deliver this. This is impossible for him to deliver. He cannot deliver this. There's far too many legal ramifications for him to deliver this. This will not get done.
people who come here should be able to stay. But look, Keir, you talk about this as if you care about the issue, but this is when you ran for the Labour leadership, which wasn't very long ago, you promised to protect free movement. You said you would you promised to close detention centres for illegal migrants, and you boasted in that letter of getting illegal migrants more welfare. Like, that's what you actually believe, and that's why you can't trust.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, probably that last point you said about Keir is probably not true, I'm going to say. Alistair Keir, thank you for a £2 super chat, my friend. More legal immigration than small boats bring. That's why we have to have we need to have legal routes for people to come. If you have illegal routes, you will stop boats. You will stop the boats. But nobody wants to do that. That's the answer. Everyone knows that's the answer, but nobody wants to do that.
Him on this issue, so I say it again, do not surrender our borders to the Labour Party.
I'm very clear that what we need to do here, we need to get our security of our borders back. They've lost control. 50,000 people have come. We've got to smash the gangs that are doing this in the first place.
Smash the gangs. You know what? I really want to address this, Michelle. We passed a law in Parliament. People back there in mind, right? You're right. We do have to smash the gangs. What does that mean? We passed a law in Parliament. We passed new laws so that our law enforcement agencies could use them. You know what? They've arrested 1,000 criminals and people smugglers. They've sentenced them to hundreds of years, exactly as you would expect.
Okay, he's exaggerating a little bit with the hundreds of years, but there have been reports of some gangs that have been targeted and arrested by since this law has passed. That is true. That is true, but it hasn't stopped the boats. It hasn't stopped the crossings. So it may have done a but it hasn't stopped the boats, Prime Minister.
Us to do. That's what we did. Do you know what? The Labour Party voted against that law. So when you stand there and say smash the gangs, like on every other issue, you say one thing, you do another, you just don't know which Keir Starmer you're going to get.
Done this.
You can't trust him on this issue. Do not surrender our borders to him.
This is the difference between me and the Prime Minister. Before I did this job, I was running the Crown Prosecution Service. I was the Director of Public Prosecution. And it was my responsibility to take down criminal gangs on behalf of everybody in this room, everybody watching, to protect the country. So I know that this can be done. You share the data, the analysis, the intelligence. You have to have a strategy to arrest everybody at exactly the same time. You need to know what evidence is going to be used in which court, where, and which country is going to have a lead on the prosecution. We did it to take down really dangerous terrorist gangs. There was one terrorist gang that involved bringing down 9 planes in the Atlantic at the same time with bombs. That was one of the cases that I had to deal with as a prosecution.
It's a very different kind of threat, isn't it?
It's the point is that he's saying that he's been in these situations. He's got that background. He's got that experience. Sunak hasn't got this. Sunak is very good at being loudmouth and throwing dummies out the pram, and it can sway this audience. But Keir Starmer is really trying to appeal to this audience to say, look, I can do stuff. I can do stuff. You've got to give me a chance to do it. Pananator says, I think it's something that like 98% of land is underdeveloped. We could take way more people if housing and business hadn't been neutralised by the Tories. Yeah, housing is a key factor as well. Housing and our business is suffering as well.
No, but these were very sophisticated terrorist gangs.
The question was
I don't accept that this can't be done for the gangs that are running this wild trade.
There are criminals and people smugglers that are spending hundreds of years in our jails because of the laws that the Conservatives passed. Okay. When it came to it,
You mean the same prisons that are overcrowded now? And there was literally a news report in the last day or two, guys. There was a news report saying that government ministers, as well as opposition, had to come up with an emergency scheme, some kind of emergency meetings to deal with the crazy overcrowding of prisons. Like, we are literally a few days away from our prisons being completely full, buggered. The system going to be completely shut down when it comes to crime because our prisons are so overcrowded right now. That's how close. That's where we are right now, as of the time of this recording. Yeah, these same prisons that are under your watch that are overcrowded.
The Labour Party opposed those laws. They voted against it. So when he's standing here before you tonight saying, yes, he cares about this, he's going to do about this.
Good to see you, Simon.
Just look at his record. This is someone who defended free movement. He campaiged against the deportation of foreign criminals. He can't be trusted on this issue. Do not surrender our borders to him.
Thank you both for your responses, and I'm going to turn now to...
God damn it. We're going to take a little break, guys. Oh, my days. Oh, my days. That's just been... wasn't an issue under the last Labour government. Yeah. I mean, people... You know, the thing is that Labour haven't given all their... still haven't shown all their cards, which is one thing, which is why many people have questions about Labour, which is understandable. But, my God, like... The thing is that the screaming and shouting from Keir Starmer will resonate with people. So, guys, just before I play the funny video, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated, and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. Gonna take a funny video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this one here. This one is from Larry and Paul, their YouTube channel, and it's called Rishi Sunak denies that he's USS bound. So let's listen to what Broken News has to say on this story.
Welcome to Broken News. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has insisted he is committed to campaigning for what he calls certain electoral victory for the Conservatives. It comes amid rumours that he's been distracted by a plan to sod off to the United States at the earliest opportunity after, as expected, the Tories get a good hard kicking right in the dangly ballot box. Our reporter has been following the PM on the election campaign trail.
The idea that Mr Sunak will pull a massive Clegg and bugger off to LA before Clive Myrie has even finished the words exit poll has been the subject of widespread tabloid speculation. But speaking during a campaigning event at the Peterborough Passport Office last week, Mr Sunak has denied claims that he's oiling himself up to emigrate as soon as he's, quote, free of all this shit. He was pressed on the issue again earlier this week during a media call at a high-class bureau de change, which had to close for an hour due to an earlier altercation. He reiterated that he had absolutely no plans to leave, and that the suitcases full of millions of dollars in cash he was holding were for a cool thing I'm doing for Insta later, a collab with Dr. Beast or whatever his name is. Yesterday on the campaign trail at an inline skating training centre, Mr Sunak, sporting day-glow lycra and shocking pink leg warmers with wraparound sunglasses and holding a boombox, said he was committed to the UK and said he wanted to continue to support homegrown businesses like Pickford's, Samsonite and Virgin Atlantic. In a statement, Mr Sunak said, "Dude, just chill out, bro. I love you guys over here in the UK and I'm stoked at being able to save you all tons of UK dollars in tax." Back to you.
Thank you. Well, Broken News put the claim to number 10 that Mr. Sunak has already given up on the election campaign and will move to LA sooner than rumoured. But Mr. Sunak's people said they wouldn't be able to reach him on the phone for the next 11 hours and 15 minutes. What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Oh, he's got his plane ticket. Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if literally, I don't know if he can like literally just fly out on the night of the vote, like literally just get on a plane and just fly out on that night. I could just see him doing that, you guys. I can just see him doing that because it would be just typical of him to do so as well. Ted Boy 1, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. As far as the Welsh and Scot are concerned, the English are the troublesome illegals. I'm not illegal. Larry the Cat, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well as well. So, guys, let's carry on with this. Oh, no. You guys need to have me on screen, don't you? Because you want to hear what you want to see my reactions, obviously. Love the end of that, and he's already on the plane, and his advisors can't reach him, says Paul Hammond. Yep, absolutely, Paul. Good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Let's carry on and hear more what they have to say here.
Our next question, which comes from Mohammed Mubarak Sheikh.
Hi. You have both made lots of promises, but you haven't set out a clear plan to pay for those promises. Where is the money going to come from?
You both made lots of promises. You haven't set out a clear plan to pay for those promises. Where is the money going to come from, Rishi?
Well, first of all, Keir Starmer said that here's the thing is, excuse me, I've got to say this because this is a stupid question, a pointless question. There are so many other questions that could have been put forward. I don't know why this one was put forward because, like, they could have talked about crime, they could have talked about climate, they could have talked about the education system. When they're asking about these cost-effective plans, and both of them have been scrutinised by certain think tanks and whatnot. Labour's is more logical than the Conservatives. There's been many people with analysis these plans, and literally Keir Starmer said earlier that they've been cost effective. So this question is totally effing pointless. So I feel like we're going to be regurgitating a lot of the same stuff here, guys, I'm afraid.
Rishi Sunak.
Well, actually, we talked about it, Mohammed, in Sue's question. I think it's right that we make savings from the welfare bill because it's forecast to grow at an unsustainable rate. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Set out a comprehensive plan. You can go and have a look at it online. And those savings we will use to cut your taxes. And what I want to do is cut taxes for people at every stage of their life. So for everyone in work...
No, you just want to cut taxes for your friends and buddies who are millionaires and billionaires.
We're going to continue cutting national insurance, £900 this year. For pensioners, we have the Triple Lock Plus. We will raise the allowance, delivering a tax cut for pensioners, making sure that the state pension is never subject to income tax. If you're a young couple wanting to buy your first home, we're effectively going to abolish stamp duty. If you have children, you're a family, we're going to expand the generosity of child benefit. Right? These are the tax cuts that I want to deliver. And if you're a small business owner and entrepreneur, we're going to abolish national insurance for the self-employed. So those are the tax cuts. That's how we're going to pay for it. And that's the choice for you at this election. You can have tax cuts with the Conservatives, or you can have thousands of pounds of tax rises under the Labour Party, because he's simply not being straight with you about what is coming. Mark my words, your taxes are going up if he is in charge.
Going up either way, people.
False, but Mohammed, I'll answer your question. Everything in our manifesto so we've set out all of our plans. It's a manifesto for growing our economy, for creating wealth, to make sure our country is better off and that everybody within the country is better off. It's got clear columns setting out how much each of our plans is going to cost, and then a column saying where that money is going to come from, so that everything is fully costed and fully funded. We've got very strong fiscal rules because we want economic stability, which is what we've been missing in recent years. And the reason for that, Mohammed, because this is really, really important, is that we know what happens if unfunded tax cuts are made, because Liz Truss tried that experiment on the country.
Yep.
And we're all paying the price for that. And when she was elected as leader of the Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak said we should unite behind her. I don't think we should unite behind her. I think we should learn the lessons, which is why I'm not prepared to allow an incoming Labour government ever to inflict that kind of damage on people across the country because people are still paying the price. Many people on a mortgage now who've come off a fixed-rate mortgage are now paying hundreds of pounds more because of the damage done to the economy. But Rishi Sunak hasn't learnt the lesson because his manifesto has got commitments in there that are unfunded because his chance...
Ed Conway of Sky News broke down the analysis and it's absolutely true that their numbers do not add up. There are numbers that don't add up for Labour as well, which is also true. But the Conservatives one is just as out of whack as Reforms are. They're both out of whack. Yes, Labour's have got I think it was like an £18 billion black hole difference. I think is what some analysis have reported. I don't know how accurate they are, but the stark contrast is huge in comparison to what the Conservatives have.
The Chancellor has said that the money he says he's going to use has already been spent. And everybody knows you can't spend the same money twice.
But
so you're going to go round... If we have...
It's true, Paul, that they haven't explained where they're going to... explaining that he's going to make tax cuts when he doesn't really answer the question of how it would be paid for. But they're not... The Conservatives aren't going to be clear anyway. But we all know that when Labour come in, there's going to be tax rises somewhere. The problem is we don't know where. We can only speculate. And I strongly believe that they will raise taxes. It's just a case of where they're going to raise those taxes. That's the question that everybody's going to be asking.
5 more years of this, we're going to go round and round in circles.
Just before you respond, because each of you had a say on that, just before you respond, I'm going to make clear that Mohammed's not alone in thinking that neither of you have set out a clear plan to pay for your promises. The IFS think tank said this week that you are both your parties are ignoring raw facts and that huge decisions need to be made, which in all likelihood will mean either higher taxes or worse public services.
Well, actually, the IFS also said that it's right to identify welfare as a challenge that needs to be addressed, and the IFS also acknowledged that when the Conservatives previously set out savings that they would get from the welfare bill, the IFS didn't think it would happen, and in fact, they were delivered, and I'm sure BBC Verify will put that quote on their website. But look, 2 years ago, I warned repeatedly about what Liz Truss's economic policies would do to our country, even if it wasn't what people wanted to hear at the time. I was right then. And that's why you can trust me now. That's why you can trust me now when I say that the Labour Party's policies will mean all your taxes are going to go up by thousands of pounds. It is in their DNA. Mark my words. Your pension, your...
We were a lot better off 14 years ago than we are now, Sunak.
Council tax, your home, your car, you name it, they will tax it, which is why he cannot rule out raising your taxes. He's been asked multiple times. Will he change the council tax bans? He won't rule it out. I'll ask him again, but I'm going to tell you, do not surrender your family finances to Labour's tax.
This feels like a Labour bashing debate rather than an actual serious debate. This feels, and I know people have been saying this in chat. It definitely feels like this is just about. It does. It's for me. It does feel very one-sided. The way this debate is being portrayed.
Let me address this directly because the Prime Minister said he warned the country about Liz Truss and the damage that she was going to do to our economy. And then in the next breath, he said we must unite behind her and support her. Why on earth would you unite behind someone that you was going to do that damage?
You know what it's like to fall in behind.
I've got to say here, Keir Starmer absolutely shoot himself in the foot saying this, and the host is about to bring up exactly what I'm thinking here.
And a leader of your party.
But he's repeating the problem.
I'm sorry.
He's repeating the problem.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but Rishi Sunak got him here. Rishi Sunak got him here. Yes. Yes, absolutely. He got behind Liz Truss. And Liz Truss crashed the economy, and what Rishi Sunak said beforehand about Liz Truss was right, absolutely right. But he backed Jeremy Corbyn to the hill, and then obviously he's been kind of throwing pot shots and whatnot at Corbyn ever since then. Whatever you might think of Corbyn, I'm sorry, I know it's a different kettle of fish. I know Corbyn is no Liz Truss and he didn't crash the economy or anything like that because he wasn't Prime Minister. But it's a little bit hypocritical for you to say that when the relationship between what happened between you and Jeremy Corbyn, it's a bit of a you know, it's a bit hard for people to swallow that. That's a bit of a, yeah. Sorry, but I think Sunak got you on this one, I'm afraid.
He said unites behind her. She's one of his candidates. And his election pitch to you seems to be, my predecessor, a Tory Prime Minister, broke the country, did huge economic damage, please vote Tory. Now, you're going to have to decide whether that's persuasive. He's now openly admitting the damage that the Tories have done to the economy and saying, please vote for him.
No,
that's the...
And this is a very good point. They're the same political party. Yes, it's a different Prime Minister, maybe one or two different cabinet ministers. It's the same political party that you are voting for.
The last thing we need in this country after the damage that has been done.
When it comes to the economy, I was right then. And since I've been your Prime Minister, inflation is back to normal, the economy is growing faster than our competitors, wages are rising, energy bills are falling, we've started cutting your taxes, and I will keep cutting your taxes. That is my pitch to you. That's a choice at this election. Their taxes that he wants to put up on you are coming. He won't rule out revaluing your council tax bands. Every pensioner that is watching should realise that under a future Labour government, for the first time in our country's history, the state pension will be subject to a retirement tax.
This is a lie. This is an absolute lie. And there's already different kinds of taxes that people are already paying here. And he's just trying to scaremonger people. Martin Lewis, the money saving expert, already stated this. And I covered this in the previous debate between the two.
Under Labour, that's what their plans are. Those are the numbers, black and white.
They're already
We're not going to do that. We're going to have the triple lock plus. But for the millions of pensioners that are watching, be very worried because you're going to face a retirement tax under the Labour Party.
Just don't insult people by putting out falsehoood. You mentioned the IFS.
Which one's the fault?
He keeps saying we're going to raise taxes.
Sorry, Keir Starmer, can you confirm?
He obviously has put a bet on interrupting me, hasn't he?
Will the state pension be subject to income tax under a future Labour government? The only way for it not is for you.
You notice how the host changed the narrative into picking fights at Keir Starmer and not Sunak here.
To match our triple lock plus. So maybe you can change policy here tonight. Will you match our triple lock plus and ensure that state pension is never subject to income tax? Yes or no?
The position on the state pension that we've set out is exactly...
It's a yes or no.
Hang on, we need to hear this response.
I think you should show some respect to the audience who want to know what I've got to say about this without constantly being interrupted. It really isn't the way to do the debate.
What's the answer to the question about whether you'll match what they're going to do on pensions?
The position on pensioners and tax, or pensions on tax, that we've set out is exactly the same. It is the position of the government at their last budget. It is their position. The Prime Minister now says, oh, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change all that. When asked where the money is coming from, his Chancellor says the money is being spent, it isn't there. That is making the same mistake again. Can I just address the IFS point, though, because I think that is really important.
If you're a pensioner, you should know there is a retirement tax coming for you, capital R, capital T, if he is your Prime Minister.
He can promise
for the first time in our
20 tax cuts.
So, like, the thing is, the problem is that while Keir Starmer has his flaws, this man... He's just not sinking in. I know this audience is biased, but those watching at home and listening to this man, and considering his background and the things that he has said in the past, people are just not buying into this person.
Pensioners are going to be paying tax because he won't match our triple lock plus. If I'm your Prime Minister, that won't happen, and that's what I'll deliver for you. As I say it again, do not surrender your finances to their tax rises.
If you've got a very brief response, then I want to go to the next question.
Well, pensioners are not going to be better off with the Prime Minister who's making promises that he can't keep because they're not funded. That's exactly what Liz Truss got wrong. We cannot... There's one thing that we cannot repeat at this election. Please do not go back to Liz Truss Mark II with this Prime Minister, because the same damage will follow. If you can't say...
It is funded.
He's not... I don't think it's going to go back to Mark II of Liz Truss, but I don't think that's... I think if that was going to be the case, we would have already had that under Rishi Sunak, if I'm honest, there.
We're going to end this particular topic.
He should have addressed the IMS question, but he never got a chance to, I don't think.
The reason you can't fund it is because you think that you can't use a single penny.
We've still got lots of topics to get through, so I'm going to turn to the next question.
That's why I can.
Thank you. This next question is from Karen Duran.
Good evening. I'm a children's nurse at a local hospital. I see families affected by libraries and children's centres closing. How will you help councils after Nottingham City Council has effectively gone bankrupt?
Great question.
Thank you, Karen.
And before I address this, obviously, we have to remember that the austerity has what's played a factor into all of this. Losing the EU funding scheme that we've had when we were part of the EU is no longer there as well. So both these have had mitigating factors into why our councils are in the situation that they are in, and it's very important to remember that.
And the council here has been run by Labour since 1991. Keir Starmer.
Yes, and I'm very concerned about the situation because I think anybody looking at a council which has run out of money is concerned about the basic services, whether it's libraries or other support that councils have to put in place. And this is a position for councils of all political stripes. There are Conservative-run councils that have struggled for money and gone bankrupt as well because of the lack of adequate and proper structured funding from the government. You asked what we would do about it, and I think it is important for us to set out what we would do if we came into office. We would change the way the payments are made to councils. At the moment, council leaders are saying they're made on a yearly basis, so we can't make the most effective use of the money that's available to us. If they're on a longer term, we could make much better use of that. Secondly, they're saying if you could do what the Conservatives promised but didn't actually do, which is to stop no-fault evictions, that would have a massive help for councils as well. Because when people lose their home through no fault of their own, quite a lot of them end up having to have support of a local authority. I don't think you should have no-fault evictions. I think we should actually get on and get rid of them. That's what the Prime Minister used to say, but he doesn't do it.
Council funding, a multi-year funding plan doesn't give more money necessarily, does it? So unless, are you saying there is more money that would come to local authorities under a Labour government?
If you go for a 3-year settlement, it means the available money can be used better because any council leader will tell you that trying to make the best use of the money within the constraints of a 12-month period doesn't work.
So he's obviously what he's saying here is that rather than obviously the initial system here, they're going to expand it to a bigger time slot. But the counter argument is what people will be saying is that, and people will pick on this, and this is what the host is saying. So you're not putting additional money into public services, which is something that needs to be done. We need more funding for public service, and this is one of the biggest gripes. We need to hear from a Labour government saying that they're going to be putting more money into councils. More public money needs to go in. We need to hear that. But he's not saying that, and that's very concerning for a lot of people who are seeing their councils struggling to get on by here. This may or may not help the situation, but we need more money in all the councils. Obviously, there's always the question of where's the money going to come from. I know that, but that not getting a direct answer of additional funding is definitely a concern here.
Better use of existing money, but look, I'm not going to.
I mean, you say, like, here's the thing, he just said there, better use of existing money. Like, I'm sorry, but don't you think that some councils have been trying to do that with the existing money that they've had? Like, they've already been scrapped down to the bare bones. And I think and I don't know, I can't recall if he mentions austerity or not, but if he doesn't mention austerity, I think this is a massive, he will massively have missed a gut punch here to Conservatives and to Sunak. Because those 14 years, that austerity periods really did cut the councils to the bones, and people have forgotten that. It's really important to highlight that, and really important to highlight the EU settlement finances that we had before Brexit as well. If they are not mentioned, those are open goals that Keir Starmer is missing here to remind people.
Stand here and say there's some magic wand that I can wave the day after the election and find money that isn't there. Huge damage has been done to our economy. It is going to take time.
You're absolutely right, Paul. Yeah, the argument is that the councils can plan more long term. I get that. I understand that. But one of the things that needs to be highlighted and pointed out is that they've had less money. So councils need some money put in. And the question is, are Labour going to put their hand in their pockets? And the answer at the moment, from what we are hearing at the moment, as of right now, is no. And I think that's a big problem. I'm overhearing calls to Pickford's Pananeko. I've moved to litter tray into the bedroom, so hello the cat. He should say there will be more money, but he's scared of the Tories pushing the tax rises button. I prefer Labour manifesto would explain why tax rises are necessary. Yeah, but the problem is that the term tax rises, people don't like that term. Like, we understand it here, but ordinary people see it as being worse off. The tax rises. People don't understand that taxes are a good thing. That's the problem. People don't understand that. You have to. It sounds silly, but you have to treat some members of the audience as idiots, because they don't understand these things. Like, they don't understand the complexities of how taxes work in that. Like, I don't fully understand taxes. Like, I'm someone who fully doesn't understand taxes, but I also know that taxes are the things that make everything make the systems that we have run for us. And you know, this whole tax cutting thing, it sticks to some people because people see it as, there's going to be more money in my pocket. Well, what they don't realize is that everything else suffers around them as a result of tax cuts. But people don't see that. A lot of the older generation doesn't see that. People have to be explained why taxes are important and why we need to have why taxes are important, why we need to have more taxes, not less. So it's about explaining and understanding this to those who don't understand it. But unfortunately, you do have to treat the audience with a certain degree of stupidity as well, unfortunately. This is why I said about putting yourselves in the shoes of ordinary people, taking off your political hat and trying to understand why people think and vote the way they do. Because this is why Keir Starmer says things and does things that we don't want him to do, because he's trying to win appeals of people that we necessarily don't want him to appeal to. But this is a man who's trying to appeal to the country. He knows he's not going to win every single vote. He knows he's not going to appeal to everyone. But a part of me does feel that Keir Starmer, at times I feel like his heart is in the right place, and there are times where I feel like he's completely ignoring the white elephant in the room with some things.
That's why our manifesto is a manifesto for growing our economy, for creating wealth, to making sure that we can make sure all of our public services, whether that's councils or others, are properly funded, providing the services that people, expect and actually, frankly, deserve, which is not the case at the moment.
Let's get Rishi Sunak's response. How will you help councils after Nottingham City Council's effectively gone bankrupt?
Karen, my first job in government was being local government minister, so I was responsible for councils, and they do an extraordinary job. And much as people focus on national politics, actually, most politics is local. It's what's happening in your street, your neighbourhood, your community. And the services that you mentioned are so important, particularly those that concern families and children. One of the things that I do want to do is actually roll out family hubs, as we've been doing over the past few years, which are special places where whole families can come and get the advice and support they need, particularly the most vulnerable families.
Your party has also introduced a huge amount of food banks over the last 14 years, and the introduction of warm banks as well, in order to ensure that people can stay warm during the winter crisis, because obviously our energy bills have skyrocketed. Isn't that very nice of you, Prime Minister?
Look, and in terms of funding councils, we've recently announced just over £500 million of extra funding for councils.
There you go. Just throw numbers out there. It doesn't matter if they're real or not. Just throw numbers saying that they've put money in.
Particularly for social care, which is where some of the big pressures are, and children's services, which you alluded to. And we'll continue to work with councils to provide them the support they need. But you mentioned...
I've got... sorry, guys. I know you guys want to hear what they're saying, but I've got to... mention this comment from Solari the Cat. It's how those taxes are spent that we have the highest taxes for 50 years. But that money is going into toy donors and chums offshore bank accounts and not being spent on public service. Exactly. A lot of money, a lot of public finances, a lot of taxes that we are paying is simply disappearing. It's literally disappearing. It's not going back yet into public services and many other things that funds this country, that works this country. A lot of it's just disappearing and we don't know where it's going. There's a lot of money that's just being wasted by the Conservatives, and that's why there also needs to be certain tax changes as well.
You mentioned Nottingham, right? And that is a glimpse of the future, right? Nottingham City Council bankrupt under Labour. Birmingham City Council, the largest council in the country, in fact the largest in Europe, not just bankrupt, but as a result, everyone in Birmingham is now paying a 20% higher council tax bill. And that is a snapshot
that they voted for. They voted for that. Let's be very clear.
Of what will happen if
They could not have raised that without the approval of the people of Birmingham, and they voted for that. That's it's a very important point I need to highlight there.
Keir Starmer is in power and across the country, as Labour
under his
always do.
watch.
They run out of everyone's money, they bankrupt the economy in 2010, they bankrupted Birmingham, they bankrupted Nottingham, and that's why everyone in Birmingham is paying a 20% higher council tax. So that is just an appetizer of the higher taxes that are going to come under a future Labour government. Do not surrender your local council and our finances to...
Cut him off. What's the matter with you, host? You're so weak.
Okay. Councils like Woking and Thurrock were Conservative when similar problems first emerged.
What do you say about that? Conservative councils in exactly the same problem. What do you say about that? And I have to say, a Prime Minister gloating about the fact that councils are struggling and the impact that you know
higher council tax.
He's responsible.
You have to believe me, you can go and check as a result of their financial mismanagement. Right? The same thing happened in Nottingham. Right? That's what...
You're not addressing the ones in Conservative areas. Why are you not addressing the ones in the Conservative areas?
What you get with the Labour Party. You remember what happened last time they were in office. They run out of your money, they bankrupt the country, and you all pay for it in higher taxes. And that is the choice for you at this election. Right? We are making progress. The economy is growing. Taxes are now coming down. The financial security that you want, I can deliver. But if we put all that progress at risk with them, your family finances are going to get hammered. Your taxes are going to get whacked up. And that is the choice for you at this election. Do not surrender to their tax rises.
So again, a lot of nonsense, here from Sunak, and he's again dodging some of the most important questions in this debate.
Okay, thank you both. Just before we get to the next question, I'm going to remind everyone watching that we have got more questions coming in this Prime Minister.
We don't want to hear
assessing the claims made here, and will continue to do so throughout the time we are on air. Our next question is from Robert Blackstock.
Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Sunak, I think you made a fair job of being Chancellor, but you're a pretty mediocre Prime Minister.
What's wrong with you, mate? He's been a crap Chancellor and a crap Prime Minister.
Sir Keir, I think that your strings are being pulled by very senior members of the Labour Party.
I don't think so.
Are you two really the best we've got to be the next Prime Minister of our great country?
Well, I know exactly what he's thinking. He's thinking of a certain individual who wanted to be on this debate, that is not on this debate, and if he thinks that that man would have been a better Prime Minister, that man would have destroyed this country. Sorry, the UK.
Rishi Sunak.
Well, Rob, look, I can understand your frustration, everyone's frustration, because the last few years have not been easy. We've dealt with a lot as a country. I'm not saying we've got everything right. I certainly would be the first to acknowledge that. But I've been your Prime Minister for 18 months. And in that time, we've got inflation down from 11% with all the damage it was doing to the...
Hey, your party are the reason that inflation went up in the first place. And you never took ownership and responsibility for that. My God. You don't take ownership and responsibility for your mistakes. This is the problem. This is so infuriating.
The cost of living back to target. The economy in the first quarter...
We are still in a cost of living crisis. We've been in recession under your watch.
This year, fastest growing in the G7. Wages rising faster than prices.
Wages rising faster than prices, and yet people are not feeling that. That's a complete BS there.
Almost a year now, and my primary job was to deliver that economic stability so I could start cutting your taxes. That is the journey we're now on. So whatever your other frustrations, the choice for you at this election is about the future. If you want lower taxes, if you want your borders secure, as Steve was asking before, if you want a sensible approach to net zero, if you want your pension protected with a triple lock plus, that is what I will do for you. Right? This is a serious election with consequences for you and your family. I get the frustrations, but think about the choice. Allow me to finish the job I've started, cut your taxes, protect your pension, secure our borders. Because if Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are in charge, your taxes are going up, our borders are going to be insecure, you're going to be saddled with bills as he reverses my net zero changes, and every pensioner is going to face a retirement tax for the first time in history. And that is the choice that you should have in your mind.
Keir Starmer.
Robert,
Thanks for popping by, Mr. Keir. I may start the manifesto earlier, so keep an eye out for the schedule. On the SNP manifesto that I'll be covering tonight, guys. It's probably not going to be at 8 p.m. I'm probably going to do it much earlier. May even be as early as 6 p.m. So I am going to change that time slot, guys, but just for people wondering as well. And thanks for the super chat as well, my friend. Have a good day.
Robert, earlier in my career, I worked in Northern Ireland with the police in Northern Ireland as part of the work out of the Good Friday Agreement. And with a team, I set out to change the police service in Northern Ireland to make sure it gained the confidence of all communities in Northern Ireland, which was a really important part of the peace process. So I said what we would do, and we delivered. I then ran the Crown Prosecution Service for 5 years with 7,000 staff. I said we would improve the way we dealt with violence against women and girls. I said we'd do it, we made the change, and we got on with it, and we made that change, and it was more successful at the end. I came into the Labour Party to lead it 4.5 years ago, and I said we will change our party to make sure that we are a party that can put a credible proposition before the country for changing the country, and that will always say, country first, party second. I've been there, I've done it, I've changed it. What I'm now asking for is the opportunity to change our country for the better, because we've had 14 pretty awful years. 14 years when I think most people would say we've ended up now with almost everything not working very well, worse than it was 14 years ago when this government came in. Most people not feeling better off. And this is a choice election, because if we go on for another 5 years of this under Rishi Sunak, that is not going to change. That isn't going to change. So this is the opportunity to turn the page, to rebuild our country, rebuild our public services, rebuild our economy, and make sure that we can genuinely say to ourselves we're a better country, better run, proper public services, and people feel better off. Now, I've done that sort of change throughout my life, and I'm asking for the opportunity to now do it for the country.
I'm just going to come back to the question, because I suspect that Robert Black...
I really wish the host had not cut him off, because I thought that was a very powerful speech, and he really should have gotten applause for that. He really should have gotten applause for that, even if you don't agree with Keir Starmer there. I thought that was a very good speech there from Keir Starmer, a very good appealing one there, even if you don't agree with Labour and the Prime Minister. Like, what he said there about, like, you know, these are things that I have done. I've made changes. Whether you like them or not, I've made changes in my times in places that I've worked. I've made changes to this Labour Party. I want to make changes to this country. And I'm asking for your opportunity to do that into the country. I'm asking for your opportunity to do that. Whether you like him or don't like him, I think he won a few votes, yeah, just off that speech there.
Blackstock knows your background. He certainly knows that you've been Chancellor. He's probably familiar with your arguments, and he still says, are you two really the best we've got to be the next Prime Minister of our great country? Now, polling does suggest that there's no great enthusiasm for either of you. Do you recognise that? Do you hear it on the campaign trail? Are you aware of that?
Michelle, that's what I said. I said to Rob, I recognise his frustrations.
It's more personal than that, isn't it? He's talking about both of you.
But there's a choice for everyone, right? There's a choice for everyone.
Yeah, there is a choice for everyone. There's Ed Davey of the Liberal Democrats. There's Carla Green and Adrian Ramsey of the Green Party. There is John Sweeney of the SNP for Scotland. There's Rhiannon of Plaid Cymru for Wales. There are many other choices. There is Count Binface in a certain constituency as well. There are political choices out there. There are independent candidates out there that you can vote for as well. There is the Monster Raving Loony Party that pops up in certain places as well. There's lots of choices. And the choice doesn't always have to be red and blue. You can choose a different colour, guys. You can choose a different colour if you generally want to. I always want people to vote, even if I don't agree with where your vote casts in your vote. Your right to choose is very important. You don't always have to pick between red and blue. There are other options on the ballot paper.
Right, Keir Starmer talks about change. You don't get change unless you've got a plan to deliver change.
Yeah, but you've changed the UK in the last 14 years, and we are all worse off. Everyone is worse off. It's because of the last 14 years, and we want something different.
Just saying it isn't going to bring about any change. And as you've heard tonight, there's no plan to cut your taxes, no plan to reform the welfare bill, no plan to deal with illegal migration, right? That's the reality of it. Yes, there will be change. It won't be change you like. It will be change when your taxes are going up, when we've become the soft touch of Europe for illegal migrants, when pensions...
keep scaremongering people. Like, this is it. This is all they're doing, is just scaremongering at this point. It's just scaremongering of Labour.
Are paying tax for the first.
And the thing is, it's going to hit some people. It's going to resonate with some people. This is the problem. And it is going to hit, like to us, like we see this, it's just so regurgitating. But for some people, it will hit some people. And it will just mean that rather than them voting Labour, they're just not going to vote at all.
Time. That's the change that is coming. So don't surrender to that, because your families are going to pay the price.
I think this question of enthusiasm is really important that you put to us, because I'm not surprised that after 14 years of this, people feel that the hope's been beaten out of them, because the country is in such a state. They've had loads of promises made to them at the last election about what would happen, which haven't been delivered on. That does beat the hope out of people. The very first question was about integrity in politics. And again, people haven't seen that integrity. You've had Partygate, you've had the breach of COVID rules, you've had the contracts for COVID, the instinct of some people to think the first thing in COVID I'm going to do is try to make money. Same with the Gambling Commission nonsense over the last few weeks. So this is an opportunity to restore that hope. I don't think we can do that by making sort of grand promises of things that can't be delivered. I think it's the ordinary hope of working people. My family was working class. The ordinary hope of getting on yourself, getting on for your family, getting on for your community and getting on for your country. It has to be rooted, if we're going to restore hope, in my view, in returning politics to service.
It's it's just so clear. Keir Starmer here is just painting this again, painting a very picture here of look at what you've had, look at what you have been through. Like the question I would have put here if I was Keir Starmer and said to you guys, you've had 14 years of these people. Ask yourself this: are you better off? Are your kids better off? Are your towns better off? Are your public services better off? Are your kids better off at school? The healthcare you're getting is better off? Are the crime in your areas getting better off? These are questions that you can put, literally, if you put these questions right there, that would really sow the seeds of doubt of people voting Conservatives. Like saying to yourselves, are you really better off after all these things? That's the real question you need to ask yourself.
The sense that you come into politics to serve.
I'm glad you got an applause for that.
Okay, and on that note, our next question, which is from Rachel Webster.
Good evening. How can I ensure that if I vote for either of you two men, you'll put women's interests first?
Yes.
Well, the obvious, one of the things is that, and you've, well, like, again, I know I'm being a bit defensive for Labour here, but, you know, most of their cabinet is full of women. Most of their shadow cabinet's been full of women. Their Chancellor is a woman. So that speaks a lot of volumes about the Labour Party here, if I'm honest. Yes, there has been a bit more diversity in terms of a bit more diversity in the Conservative Party a little bit, but don't be fooled by that.
Starmer.
Thank you very much for that question. I have in my team...
I really hope this does not go down the transphobe and what is a woman question. I will be absolutely fuming if we go down that question. That we don't want to hear that debate.
As partners with me, very, very good, strong women that will deliver for the country. Rachel Reeves would be the first woman Chancellor if we're elected into government. She worked, as you know, in the Bank of England and is very, very keen and strong on the fiscal rules and what we need to do for our economy. I've got, Angela Rayner, my deputy, who again has an incredible background, coming from a difficult background, where was a care worker for many years and now deputy leader of my party, and I'm very proud of her. And these people, and there are plenty of others, Yvette Cooper, Bridget Phillipson, you name it, really good, strong women who'll be part of my team. I think that leadership is about empowering your team and making sure it's a team on the pitch that are all batting and working together. And that's the way I lead, not suggesting for a moment that I'm the one with all the answers, but knowing that if I lead my team and bring my team into this, and we work as a team and will serve as a team, if we get the opportunity to do so, I will do it with some really fantastic, wonderful women who have been on this journey for me for 4.5 years, changing our party to put it before the country with that, essential principle, country first, party second.
Rishi Sunak,
Very good response.
how would you ensure you'd put women's interests first?
Yeah, so I didn't catch...
Rachel.
Rachel. Probably the easiest thing I can tell you is that I have 2 young daughters. And that's why you can trust me, because as a dad...
Well, Keir Starmer is a dad too. What does that got to do with it? The difference right there is quite stark. Like, yes, you're both parents, but he's got women in his cabinet. Have you got a woman chancellor? Oh no, you haven't got a woman chancellor. Have you got a woman as a home secretary? Oh no. Did you have a woman as a foreign secretary? Rishi Sunak. Oh no, you didn't get that there. I mean, you've got one as an education secretary.
First and foremost, rather than a politician or prime minister, I want them to grow up in a country which is safe for them when they become teenagers and can walk around on their own, making sure that we have the right police on the streets, that our communities are safe for women and girls is really important to me. I want to make sure that they have the health that they need, and that's why we've been making changes to things like HRT and maternity care in hospitals. But I also want to make sure that when they grow up and have jobs and start a family, that they're supported too, which is why we're rolling out 30 hours of free childcare for every working parent from the time that their little one is 9 months old to when the toddler goes off to school at 4 years, and that will make a big...
Well, the problem is that, by the way, my mouse is broken, which is why, if you wonder why there's clicking and it doesn't always come out, it's my mouse. By the way, the childcare stuff that he's talking about, like, the sector has already said that they can't cope with this change, and many of them are just turning it down because they don't have the places for them. We don't even have the staff for them either. So again, this doesn't work.
Difference to families up and down the country, but that's why I said so. I can go into lots more policies, but I want my girls to grow up in a country where the sky...
He could have said the things that he could have said about some of the women within his own cabinet, but he didn't.
Sky is the limit for their ambitions. There is nothing that they can't do because they're women, and that's the kind of place that I believe in.
I'm going to bring in a related question, because this came to us via the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote website. It was from Vicky in Oxfordshire, who asks this: will you protect women's right to single-sex spaces from any and all males, regardless of if they hold a GRC, a gender recognition certificate?
I am not going to comment on this, guys.
Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, yes, unequivocally. And we will do that by changing the law so that the Equalities Act recognises that sex means biological sex, and that will allow us to deliver on what Vicky wants, which is to protect female-only spaces, female-only services. It's crystal clear for you there is a choice on that question at this election, because Keir Starmer is not matched my pledge to reform the Equalities Act to pass new law. That is the only way to deliver on what Vicky says. And the reason he won't do that, I don't know, but he can explain, is because he's not sure, like I am, that when it comes to these matters, sex means biological sex, and that's how you protect female-only spaces and services.
Keir Starmer?
Yes is the answer to the question. It's very important that we protect women's spaces. I saw this firsthand when I was Chief Prosecutor back in 2008 to 2013. I was working with groups who were supportive of women who'd been subjected to domestic violence and sexual violence, and saw for myself just how important it is to have those women's spaces. Same in hospitals and in sport. So yes to that answer. But what I will also say is that I do recognise that there are a small number of people who are born into a gender that they don't identify with, and I will treat them, as I treat all human beings, with dignity and respect. And I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you for why. Because if you don't, you end up with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom standing in Parliament making an anti-trans joke in front of the mother of a murdered trans teenager. I will never, ever allow myself to be put into that position.
Rishi Sunak, would you like to respond to that?
A lesser clap there than what Rishi Sunak said. That says a lot about this audience. That says a lot about this audience. I think some of these audience members should hang their heads in shame. Really should.
That's not what I did. I was pointing out that you've changed your mind on this question multiple times. But to answer Vicky's question, you can't deliver on what Vicky wants. So everyone who does want female spaces protected has to be prepared to change the laws that the Equalities Act recognises that sex means biological sex. It's pretty straightforward. Now, Keir Starmer says that he believes in that, but he won't change the law to do it. So he's not being straight with you again.
Well,
right? Saying one thing and doing another. You won't change the law to recognise that sex means biological sex, so you cannot say to Vicky and everyone else who cares about this issue that you will actually ensure that their spaces are protected.
If he'd been in as many support centres that I've been in for those that have survived sexual violence and domestic violence, he would know very well it is possible to do it. It is being done. I've supported it being done when I was Chief Prosecutor. I've always believed in that principle of women's spaces. That's going back to 2008, way before this latest iteration of the debate, because I could recognise for myself just how important it was to have that space, women-only space, biological women-only space, particularly in that area, but also in other areas.
How do you ensure it? Just a second. Yeah. I mean, Rishi Sunak, how do you ensure it without changing the Equalities Act?
It's provided for under the Equality Act. It is actually spelt out as one of the examples given in the Act. It always has been. And fabricating a difference here in a situation where actually we should be trying to find common ground and work together. Well, I'm proud of the record of my party on women's rights. We've done amazing things in terms of equality under Labour governments.
We have an Equalities Act. Why does it need to be changed? This is the thing. I didn't really want to address this, but yeah. Nothing needs to change on this, guys. It doesn't. This is scaremongering tactics by the Conservatives. This is what all this is. And he literally says there, he's been talking to these women, been at these support centres. Has Sunak been to any of them? Has Sunak sat down and talked to these women? Has Sunak done any of that? No. He knows because he's had the experience behind him. Sunak has not. This is the stark difference here.
A massive difference to millions of lives. There's much more work to do on women's equality going forward. But the only way I think we can make that progress is if we change the way that we do politics, stop this business of...
Logic and empathy is lacking. It's time to stop using trans as a political fodder. 100% Stephen Banker. We need to stop this. We need to stop using them like this and let them be who they want to be. And just leave them. This is why I said Sunak got owned in this debate, objectively speaking. In my opinion, based on what we've heard so far, Keir Starmer has been far better without the two. But there have been one or two times where Sunak has done one or two punches, but Keir has had much more bigger blows, though. It's helpful that Starmer has the technical knowledge here. Yeah, that's one of the big factors here, is that he's got the knowledge behind this, where Sunak has just got lots of rhetoric, and that's what he's been just doing, throwing in lots and lots of rhetoric. But unfortunately, some of that rhetoric does throttle through to certain people, whether we like it or not, unfortunately. The Equalities Act doesn't need changes, but it does need improvements for more minorities. There's always. I think the thing I would always say is that with anything, there is always room for improvement. There is always things that you could do better. There's always things on that. There can always be better things, better little details and whatnot can be done. I 100% agree that there is always the term that there is always room for improvement. Nothing is perfect. There is always something you can do better than what you're already doing.
Always trying to divide everybody, yes, and actually use the opportunity of leadership, which is what I would do, to say the job of the leader of the country is to bring people together. These are difficult discussions, different opinions, of course, but the role of the leader of the country is to bring that together so that the country itself is less divided.
Well,
one of the issues for me is with sadness, is the fact that over the last 14 years, there's been this tendency on almost every issue to try to find the points of difference and division, rather than doing what we're actually really good at as a country, which is bringing people together.
Before we move on.
Well said.
This is about the courage of your convictions and principles, right? I believe when it comes to these matters, sex means biological sex. Of course we should have compassion and tolerance for people who are going through questioning that, but fundamentally, when it comes to women's safety, women's only spaces, sex means biological sex for me. That is the only way to make sure you can deliver the protections that Vicky wants. And on this question, Keir Starmer, when one of his own female MPs made that point a while ago, he said that she was wrong. She was hounded, right? He said she was wrong. Now, he's now changed his mind on that question, that it goes back to trust, it goes back to having the courage of your convictions. I get that not all of you will agree with my position, right? But I'm being clear with you. Sex means biological sex. You have to change the Equalities Act to deliver the security of women's spaces and women's services. That's what I believe the right thing for our country is.
Can you respond to that point, which relates to one of your MPs, Rosie Duffield?
The Prime Minister knows perfectly well that this is all set out in the Equalities Act already. The specific instance of safe space, it's set out. Read the legislation. Look at the notes under the legislation. It's been there for years. Don't just use this as a political football to try to divide people across the country.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll move on to our next question, and this one is from Judy Waters.
Good evening, gents. I own a jazz vinyl record business with my partner. Post-Brexit, we have lost 90% of our business with Europe. How can we mend our broken trading relationship with Europe?
Brexit. Let's hear what they have to say
90% of Julie's business with Europe has been lost. Now, Keir Starmer, you were a Remainer. Rishi Sunak, you argued and voted for leave. How can we mend our broken trading relationship with Europe?
Well, Julie, first of all, thank you for doing what you do. My mum was also a small business owner. I grew up in a family that had a family business. I know how hard it is. I know what the struggles are like, and our economy is built on people like you. And you deserve all our support and admiration and praise for doing what you are doing.
So she lost 90% of her business, Mr. Sunak. And what are you going to do to fix that?
Sorry, things have been difficult. Right? We had the referendum, and now focus should be on making sure we make the best of all the opportunities. In an economy-wide sense, we're actually doing very well now at exporting around the world. But in order to help you, I have two specific things that I can do that will help. One of them is to make sure that we cut your taxes on business rates. When I talk to small retailers like yours, I think you said you had a premises. The thing that everyone talks to me about is business rates. That's why we've cut business rates for small retail, restaurants, pubs, shops across the country.
She still lost 90% of her business. 90%. 90% of her business is gone.
And Labour on...
These are small mitigated things that are going to help, but she still lost 90% of her business.
Wales, they haven't done that,
Julie's
so everyone's taxes are going up.
And then about mending the trading relationship.
And the second thing we'll do for you, for all those people like you who are self-employed and others in small businesses, I want to abolish your national insurance so that you have more financial security. Now, I'm the person that has made sure that we have good relations with Europe. You can all see that, and we will continue to do so. But the best way...
I'm sorry. I had to laugh there. He said he had good relationships with Europe. The only thing you got good, was the Windsor Framework. Yeah, I'll give him credit there. Credit where credit is due on the Windsor Framework. He deserves credit for that, because he did play a part in that. But, like, you and your previous prime ministers... I certainly do not have a very good relationship with Europe. And I do strongly believe that Labour will build a much better relationship with them.
Well, I can help your small business and the hundreds of thousands of others like yours is to continue to cut your taxes, because that's how we'll give you financial security. That's the choice for you at this election.
He says he's going to cut national insurance. That's £46 billion. £46 billion has just been spent in the last minute without saying where that money's coming from. That money on national insurance is used for our NHS and for our pensions. So, Prime Minister, if you're going to cut that money, that national insurance, those £46 billion, is it the NHS or is our pensioners that are going to pay for it?
So far, neither of you have answered Julie's question, which is about how we can mend our broken trading relationship with Europe.
Let me address that, because the Prime Minister says, I think he's just said the economy is all very well, going very well. I don't think millions of people across the country feel it's going very well. I think they think it's going very badly, and it's hitting them. But Julie... in relation to the EU, I did vote to remain, I campaigned to remain, but we left. We've left the EU, we're not going back to the EU. But I do not accept that we can't get a better deal than the one that we've got, because too many businesses are in the position you're in, which is, you put yourself into your business, you put your money into your business, you take huge risks for your business, and I think you should be supported. So we want to arrange to get a better deal in trade relations with the EU. I think Boris Johnson botched it. He just wanted to say he could get a deal across the line. So we can get a better deal.
And this is not up to you. This is up to the EU, Keir Starmer. He can say this, but the reality is the ball is in the EU's court on this. It's completely up to them. It's not up to Keir Starmer or the British government on this.
I think a trading deal. I'd also like a better deal on research and development, where I think if we work together, it would be better for the country, and a better deal when it comes to security and defence, particularly in light of what's happened in Ukraine.
The key thing for Julie is the trade part. So I want to ask Rishi Sunak, could we get a better... Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the question. Could we get a better trading deal with Europe?
You know what? You might be able to. But do you know what the price of it will be? It will be free movement of people. No, and that's what Keir Starmer's not being straight with you about, right? They might be able to sit down with the EU.
He's literally just ruled out freedom. He ruled out freedom of movement. So you're accusing him of being a liar, even though that you're a liar yourself.
And the price of anything, and I know because I've sat across them for the last 18 months, negotiated the Windsor Framework for Northern Ireland, actually got us into the Horizon programme for R&D. All the things he's talking about involve accepting more migrants. Free movement by the back door. That is the choice for you at this election. Right? If you want
this is scaremongering
to come back, we had Steve's question at the beginning about borders and migration. Right? That is the price of any deal like that with the EU. They have been crystal clear about that. So if you want high migration, fair enough. I don't think that's right. I want to bring the levels of migration down. I will not do any deal with the EU that increases migration when we had a referendum, and that is what I will deliver for you, not more open borders and free movement.
There is a give and a take when you reach deals like this, and perhaps the EU will ask for freedom of movement in return for what you want.
We are not going back into the EU.
No, they won't. Britain needs to offer something, but I don't think that's the answer.
We're not rejoining the single market or the customs union, and we're not accepting freedom of movement. But I'm not a
defeatist. Will you accept migration in any form?
Please, let me finish answering the question. I'm not a defeatist like the Prime Minister who says to Julie, bad luck. That's as good as it gets. You'll have to go along with the problems you've got, however hard that is for you. I'm not in that. I'm not going to say to you, Julie, there's nothing I can do to help you, or to other people in the same position. I'm going to say, I know we can get a better deal than the botched deal that we've got. And I'm going.
This is very good. This is very, very good here, what Keir Starmer is saying. Yes, he says, OK, listen, I'm not going to sit on the deal that we have. I'm not going to sit on what we have here. I'm going to get something better because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for businesses. And businesses are screaming out for help. They are literally screaming out for help. They have been ever since, we've left the European Union. Businesses are screaming out for this help. And even though Keir Starmer can't promise something, he's saying he's going to do something at least. So he's giving something at least. It's better for him to say that he's going to try and get a better deal. But Rishi Sunak there was very, very coy when the question was put to him there. Like, he doesn't want to change the status quo. Keir Starmer does want to change the status quo. He does want to I do believe that he'll want to align us closer to the EU. But whether or not about the single market in the customs union and that's way down the line, I'm afraid. Starmer's had Labour MPs frequently going to talk to people in the EU for over 3 years now. This is going to have been part of those conversations. Of course, they've been having conversations. Of course, the Labour have been having conversations with the EU. They have been having conversations, out of shadow of a doubt. But whether they will get a better deal, that's a big question. A review is coming up on what we have, but getting a better deal is a different matter, because the host is right in saying that you have to offer something back. We do have to offer something back. And the question is what on that?
Going to go out and fight for it. Not going to have freedom of movement come back. Not going to go back into the EU. But I'm going to fight for a better deal so you can trade more easily across Europe, so you can succeed and our economy can succeed. Because I believe in our country.
Yeah. In the 18 months I've had the job, I've negotiated with the EU for the Windsor Framework, restored the government in Northern Ireland and strengthened our union, made sure that we are part of the Horizon scheme on positive terms, warmly welcomed by the entire research community or universities. I've got a track record of doing those deals with the EU, but you just say you'll get a deal. What will it cost? You're not being straight with people. I know. What it will cost is more migration.
No, I don't know about the migration, but all the things he's just said before that, obviously, you've got to give him credit on those things. He has done those things. Under his government, he's done those things. You got to give credit where credit is due, even if you don't like it.
Not being straight with you. You think you just magic some good thing for us, and they won't want something in return, right? It's just, again, you're taking people for fools. They've been crystal clear. The price of any of those things is greater migration. It is fundamental to how they think about it.
If you were the Prime Minister, you would have to give something in return for the kind of deal you want with Europe.
Yes, but I think it's very important when you start those negotiations, you're very clear the lines you won't cross. And I've just set out the lines that I won't across. But I'm not a defeatist like the Prime Minister, and nor will I say to Julie, I won't insult Julie by saying it's all fine, everything's working, everything's great. Part of the problem we have with this Prime Minister is that his lived world is millions of miles away from the lived worlds of individuals across the country, the businesses and the families that they're trying to support. There's a massive gap. That is
very
a problem.
good.
But again,
Reminding people that the Prime Minister of this country is a millionaire/billionaire. He has lots and lots of wealth. He has no idea what it's like for ordinary people. Very important point.
This won't rule out. Will you accept any greater migration as the price of a deal with the EU? Yes or no?
No, I don't. But I would say this, that migration, lawful migration, is at record numbers under this Prime Minister. He's actually the most liberal Prime Minister we've ever had when it comes to immigration. The numbers have gone through the roof.
And here we are going back into the migration thing, and another blow here for Sunak.
They're actually far higher than they were when we were in the EU. So I really don't think you can start lecturing other people about higher migration. They've never been as high as they are on your watch.
Yeah, what I can do is point out the choice for everyone at this election. This year, because of the actions I've taken, the number of visas we've issued is down by 30%. Net migration is forecast to halve in just the next 12 months because of the measures I've taken, because it was too high. But I've
And it's very important, Stephen Banker again saying, but Starmer can only talk the talk. The EU can still hold all the power. Yeah, absolutely. That is the case here. Yeah, and I don't dismiss for 1 second that Labour haven't been talking to the EU. But again, it's just talk. It's nothing is guaranteed.
I've been Prime Minister for 18 months. Now it's coming down sharply. Right? That's a progress we'll continue if I'm your Prime Minister, and we'll have a legal cap in Parliament.
And it doesn't always have to be about immigration. There's lots of other things that the UK can offer. As Pananator just points out, the UK could offer increased military support in places for lower trade barriers. That could work, but the only problem is that we don't have enough military personnel. So that would be an issue there.
To guarantee the numbers keep falling after that. Now, if Keir Starmer's your Prime Minister, you won't get any of that because he opposes those changes. He won't have a legal cap on migration, and it will go up. Right, so that's the choice for your legal migration. Continue the progress we've made underneath. It's forecast to halve, legal cap in Parliament, or open borders. Surrender your borders to the Labour Party.
He's making it up as he goes along.
And in here...
Actually, hang on.
Our next question... No, I'm going to
get BBC verified to check.
I'm going to the next question.
Just get BBC verified to check that. That's no problem.
They're already at work. Our next question is from Tasneem Zahra.
I'm in my 20s, and it feels like universities in the UK are churning out students year on year.
Yeah, just start again, because we didn't hear the beginning. Just start your question again.
I'm in my 20s, and it feels like universities in the UK are churning out students year on year. Young people like myself have lost hope for if they will ever get a good job or buy a home. Many of my peers are leaving the UK and going to countries like Australia or Dubai. What would you do to make me stay in the UK?
Thank you, Tasneem. And this is going to be the last question and set of answers. Keir Starmer, what would you do to make Tasneem stay in the UK?
Ensure that we've got good, well-paid, skilled jobs here for you and other young people who I do think have been let down in recent years of government, and make sure that we build the houses necessary to ensure that the dream of home ownership lives again, because at the moment it's been killed under this government. The average age for young people to get a house is in their 30s now. I think it should be in their 20s, and if we have 5 more years of this government, it'll go up to the 40s. But we've got to build more houses, 1.5 million houses across the country. That means tough decisions about planning and where those houses are going to be, but we also need to deal with the very high rents that young people are often paying. So many say to me, I'm paying more in rent than I'd actually pay on a mortgage, huge proportion, but I can't save for the mortgage deposit that I need. And that's why we will have a low mortgage deposit scheme in place to allow young people, first-time buyers, to get on the housing ladder. But we've got to build the houses, 1.5 million houses. The Prime Minister's taken down the targets for house building. They're going off a cliff, sinking, and that is taking down with it your dreams and the dreams of young people across the country who can't get the job that they want. Very often, if they've been to college or university, are returning back home. We have to give them the future that they deserve. That means that we have to go out with our manifesto for growth, for wealth creation, and seize the opportunities of the future. Other countries are doing this. I think we should be in the race for the jobs for the future. I think we could win that race, but also roll up our sleeves, start building the houses that are necessary to make sure that you can afford to buy a house in your 20s, not as it currently is in your 30s. That's the tragedy of the last 10 years. And it'll simply go up if we have 5 more years of the current government.
OK, Rishi Sunak, Tasneem's question.
Everyone who's had the opportunity to own their own home remembers what it feels like when you get the keys to your first flat, and it's an incredibly special feeling. I believe in a country where all young people can aspire to that and realise that ambition. It's a very special thing. I know it's too hard. Of course it's become too hard to buy your own home. I've got 2...
And whose fault is that again? Whose fault is that again? Whose party in the last 14 years have made it difficult? Whose party has not built enough homes? Not enough social homes, not enough council homes for those who cannot afford the homes? Whose fault is that?
Very practical, specific things that we will do if I'm your Prime Minister, which will help make it easier. The first is to reintroduce a new form of Help to Buy. You may remember this. It means that you won't have to save for the entire deposit, just 5%, and then you'll be able to get a Help to Buy loan from the government, which covers another 20%. So that potentially can save you tens of thousands of pounds. And the second thing that we will do is effectively abolish stamp duty for first-time buyers. For the vast, vast majority of first-time buyers, we will abolish stamp duty. Right? Those are 2 very practical things that will save you thousands of pounds. Now, the reason that's important is when I talk to people like you, the most important thing they tell me is, how can you help me with a deposit? Because actually, I'm probably OK and into a decent job, and I can probably afford the mortgage, right, actually similar to my rent. But what I can't do is save up for the deposit in time.
Tasneem's question was also about jobs, that young people have lost hope about ever getting a good job.
And by doing Help to Buy and abolishing stamp duty, we will massively be able to speed up how quickly you can get on the housing ladder and fulfil that dream of owning your own home. I think it's incredibly important.
Just mentioned Keir Starmer that the housing targets have been dropped. They've dropped their own housing targets, the Conservatives.
And as I said, I don't want to give you waffle. 2 very specific things.
You have been waffling.
Help to Buy, abolish stamp duty, neither backed by Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. So again, there's a very clear choice for you, because if he's your Prime Minister, stamp duty for first-time buyers is going up. Right? That's what the plans are. If he's your Prime Minister, stamp duty. Again, we're back to the welfare debate. I'm happy to have that again. You don't think there's a penny to be made from welfare savings? I do. But there we go. The stamp duty and first-time buyer relief for you, Help to Buy, help you get on the housing ladder. That's a choice for you.
The Chancellor says the money's been spent. It isn't there, Prime Minister. The money isn't there. The Chancellor, not me, your Chancellor said the money's been spent. At all. You can't fund things from nothing. The money has been spent. And this is why, if we go on for another 5 years like this, we're going to end up exactly where we are now or in a worse place.
Yeah,
we have to turn the page and start
which are bankrupt and everyone's taxes have been hiked up.
And that means building those 1.5 million houses, and that's what we're determined to do with a strong plan behind it. Already talking to the partners who will build those houses with us, because I'm absolutely determined that every single young person in this country under a Labour government will feel that the future is better for them. For my parents, it comforted them, even though they had tough times as parents. They didn't have a lot of money, but the thought, the idea that it would be better for their children comforted them and made their lives worthwhile. We've lost that, and we have to get it back, because in the end, the future is about our children and young people. We have to build a country, rebuild a country that is fit for them to live in and to absolutely realise all of their aspirations and their dreams. And I'm determined that we will do that.
Right, so.
Not enough houses have been built. This is one of the things there, and he's hammering home that point there. I thought that was very good from Keir there.
Tasneem, your question is fundamentally the reason I got into politics. Right, my grandparents emigrated to this country with very little. 2 generations later, I have the enormous privilege of standing here as your Prime Minister. I don't think my story would be possible in any other country, and that's why I feel an enormous sense of duty and gratitude to our country for what it's done for me. And I'm in politics to make a difference, to make people's lives better. And that starts with young people, making sure you have the opportunities you need to succeed in life, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, how have you arranged your flight already to America?
Do wherever you live. That's a type of country I believe in. And when you get that job, when you work hard, I want you to keep more of your hard-earned money, decide how to spend it for yourself. I believe in a society that's aspirational. That's why I want to cut your taxes. It's not just a technocratic thing, it's a type of country
Thank you
I
very
believe
much.
in. It's
I
one
did
where
say
your
that
hard
was
work
the-
is rewarded,
that's the
your
last
aspirations
question.
are supported,
Thank you very
and
much.
that's what I'm in this to deliver for you, and that's what I will do as your Prime Minister.
We are just about out of time in here. That was the final question of the evening. In a moment, we're going to be joining Laura Koonsberg and Clive Myrie over
don't wanna
in the
hear
spin
them.
room for some more analysis. But before we leave you from here, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer are going to have 30 seconds each to leave you with a final thought. And the order in which they will speak was decided earlier by a coin toss. First to speak is going to be Rishi Sunak.
I understand why you're frustrated with our party, with me. I get it. But this is not a by-election. It's a choice with profound consequences for you and our country. And before you make that choice, think what a Labour government would mean. Can you afford to pay at least £2,000 more in tax? And why won't Keir Starmer be straight with you about what he wants to do? And if you are not certain about Labour, don't surrender to them. Don't vote for any other party. Vote Conservative.
That was... There was some chatter in the background there. I think there's some people trying to take jibes and whatnot there. But it's a very... it felt like it started very well, and then it just got into don't vote Labour. Labour will do this, Labour will do that. So I think he wasn't as good as I thought it would be.
Rishi Sunak.
That is a lie.
Thank
He's
you
been
very
told
much.
not to repeat
And
that
this
lie, and
is-
he's just done it.
And this is your closing statement, Keir Starmer. Thank you.
My message to you is simple. If you want your NHS back, you have to vote for it. If you want a growing economy, you have to vote for it. If you want more police on our streets, more teachers in our schools, you have to vote for it. If you want to end 14 years of chaos and rebuild our country, then that power is in your hands. On July the 4th, vote change, vote Labour.
Thank you very much. And that
Is the end of the debate, and thank God. Wow, that were 2 hours and 25 minutes, guys. Wow. So what did I think of the debate? The audience was very biased at times. There were some that were very respectful, shall we say, towards Keir. I thought Rishi Sunak had one or two moments where he did hit a few gut punches to Keir Starmer at times in this debate. But I honestly thought Keir Starmer came out better. He came out with a lot more compassion, a lot more down to earth. And his background, and a lot of that background that he fell back on, which you expected him to do, really did hit a lot of things there. I thought that there was a lot of things there that I thought Keir Starmer said a lot of the right things. There were some opportunities as well to hit some more real. There were some knockout punches he could have dealt with in some of the questions that were put up that he missed out on. Keir Starmer, I think, as well, that he missed on there as well. I thought the host was crap. I thought she was completely, really, really poor. I still don't understand, like I said at the start of this, why Victoria Derbyshire was not the host instead. I was expecting this to be the best debate out of all the debates that I have seen. And it turns out to be one of the worst debates. Actually, ITV's debate was a lot better. Even though I didn't agree with the format, it was a hell of a lot better than this. So in that regard, I'm slightly disappointed, if I'm honest, on that. But before we head out, and before I read you guys in the comments, don't head out just yet, guys, because I want to remind you all of just what we have been through for the last 14 years. A very impassionate one here.
This is a message to the Conservative Party on behalf of the people of the United Kingdom.
It's been 14 years. In that time, you have achieved great things. You've encouraged more people to become passionately engaged in politics, while ridding our streets of the real criminals. You've enabled water companies to fully prosper by cutting petty environmental red tape. And when your friends needed you most, you showed you would do anything for them. For all that, and more, we would just like to say thank you. Since the very beginning, You saved us from the boring competency of serious people and brought personality back into politics.
There are baked beans incoming.
Introducing some incredible characters that we'll never forget, even if we try really hard to.
It didn't need to be this way.
We looked on as, over the years, you used plucky British ingenuity to cling onto power through thick and thin and really very thick. All the time demonstrating an unmistakably British sense of humour.
We have never had it so good.
Strong and stable leadership with me.
So if this country is to change, then it can only be us who will deliver it.
I did not lie to the House.
Hilarious. Thank you. The historical burden of being a world-leading country was becoming too much, so you thoughtfully removed us from the global stage. Yet, you sought inspiration from international greats like China, Russia, and North Korea by supporting a healthy propaganda machine built on unwavering professionalism.
With the terror man, it's all gone wrong.
And even though you think climate change isn't really a threat, you've graciously shown commitment to the environment by reducing, reusing, and recycling. Thank you. In the past 14 years, you've saved our Victorian rail infrastructure and rescued it from unthinking modernisation. You've reduced the crippling workload of UK farmers by importing more foreign meat. And you've laid the groundwork for a beneficial new American-style health system. Thank you. No one has supported the lectern industry like you. And with no fewer than 5 Prime Ministers, 7 Chancellors, 8 Foreign Secretaries, 8 Home Secretaries, 8 Health Secretaries, 10 Education Secretaries, and 12 Culture Secretaries, you really have been the party of job opportunities. It's been a remarkable 14 years for our country. Just look at all you've done. We can't even find the words to express our feelings for you. So, why not call a general election now and give the British people the chance to properly say, thank you.
Understandably so. This was before a general election was called many ages ago. But yes, it is time to get rid of these clowns, guys. It is time to get rid of the Conservatives. Less than a week to go now. It is time to get rid of these clowns. For too long, we have all suffered greatly. I cannot stress this enough. We have got to get rid of the Conservatives. We cannot give them power again. They need to understand what they did. No, I'm not going to repeat the video again. No, because I want to go and have lunch. We need to get rid of the Conservatives. It cannot be more clearer. So, guys, I'm probably going to live stream the SNP manifesto at probably, I'm going to do it at 7 o'clock. Probably not 6, not 8, 7 o'clock, probably the likely time. So I will obviously update it because I'm looking at the watch now and things that are going on. So just for people to remind you, guys, the final manifesto that I will be covering tonight will be the SNP manifesto. I know I haven't done a Regan's News round for a couple of weeks. I may record one for the weekend, possibly for you guys. No promises. I may record one for you guys as well. But before I go, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along. Thank you, Alistair Kier, again for the super chat. Thank you to everyone who stayed throughout the whole live stream, 2 hours and 30 plus minutes. I really appreciate you guys' support. But yep, that's the end of it. I'm not covering any more debates. I'm not going to be doing any of that, guys, now. There's at least one more live stream on Monday, which is a Snowflake viewpoint. There may be, obviously, what I'm going to be doing on the night is still undecided. Like I said, I still want to do something with Lee Corn, but I know people have been saying there's lots of people going to be doing live streams and whatnot. One thing I will promise you guys is that the day after the day after the general election, that morning, I will be up at 7 o'clock and I will be doing a live stream and I will be looking at the numbers for you guys to see what's the results. I'm not going to be doing an all-nighter. I know some people are going to do that. I will not be doing an all-nighter. I'll be doing a live stream in the evening, and then I'll be doing a live stream the very next morning for you guys, and then obviously we will go from there. So thank you everyone for coming along. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys later on. But until then, from myself, from Ollie, from Cash Dummy, and from Pingu, the gang behind me who have been supporting me all the way through, I just have one more thing to say to you guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.